manipulated. From school books to CEOs, they expand their cultural control. Soft power whispers shaping their utopian goals. Once in power, they destabilize the norm, creating chaos, making society squirm. Problems they orchestrate by design, blaming capitalism for the pain of clever lies. These are the portals of the woke, embedded in actions, words they invoke, from pushing equity to Marxist dreams, in the dance of power, scheme and scheme. In every move, their agenda gleams. Remember, nothing's ever as it seems. Next capitalism, they fiercely assail. In every speech, it's the villain they unveil. From racism, patriarchy, they rail. You know, ain't nothing equity, they prevail. Ushering in their Marxist utopias, the end game. Turmoil and strife, they aim to overthrow the old, establish their claim. In the vision, they abolish everything. They need capitalism for the pain of clever life. These are the portals of the woke, embedded in actions, words they invoke, from pushing equity to Marxist dreams, in the dance of power, scheme and scheme. In every move, their agenda gleams. Remember, nothing's ever as it seems. So, instrumental. Gain power, destabilize, bring capitalism into the Marxist utopia. That's what they want, that's what they want. Abolish capitalism. These are the portals of the woke, embedded in action, words they invoke, from pushing equity to Marxist dreams, in the dance of power, scheme and scheme. In every move, their agenda gleams. Remember, nothing's ever as it seems. So,
Hello, fellow Gnostic sex cultists. Welcome to the cult, and it is Friday, and we do a very special episode of the cult on Friday because it's time for happy hour. We did it. We made it through another week, a week with a lot of nonsense, a lot of nonsense going on this week. I'll tell you what, it was a week filled with shenanigans and crying and complaining and more crying and more complaining. It has been a really long week, and I haven't been feeling great the last couple days. I'll tell you guys that too. I'm still I'm not feeling great today. I'm feeling better today than I did yesterday, but I'm not feeling so great. All right. So I don't want any grief. I don't want any nonsense. When Carlin wears that hat with sunglasses, I feel like it's gangster Carlin. Bot, roll with it, I suppose. Just roll with it. Well, guys, guess what? I found the Gnostic sex cult. Again, I found them. They were right at it in the open. And in fact, they had a whole conference just a couple days ago. I found, check this out. So for those who are new, if you haven't been around the cult all that long, on Happy Hour Fridays, we basically do what we do most of the time on this channel, which is we watch woke leftist videos, we watch their trainings, we watch their classes, we watch their book launches, we watch all this stuff. We watch the craziest stuff going on the left that you will never see from your conservative influencers because it's more than 2 minutes long, because we don't watch TikTok videos. We actually watch the full training video. And I drink beer, and I have 4 beers. Actually, I didn't even have to go to the beer store today because I actually just had extra beer in my fridge. So we're going to see some repeats that we've seen before, but you guys are going to get to vote on them again. So I drink beer, and we watch woke training and we talk about it. And so I'm very excited that I found the Gnostic sex cult for us this week. Check it out. Because recently there was a conference called the Engendering Love Conference, healing conversations on femininity, masculinity, and fluidity. And the conference may be over. We missed the live show, but how lucky for us. How lucky for us that they put all the videos of the conference online, and there are plenty of videos that we can choose from for our jaunt into the Gnostic sex cult today. Don't tell James Lindsay about this. He'll get too excited. We could talk about liberating men's true power to reduce collective suffering. We could talk about moving towards a gender healed world. We could talk about a vision for a gender healed world, perspectives from gender equity and reconciliation. We could talk about self love and self sovereignty. We could talk about decolonizing Black masculinity, healing historical trauma, and cultivating healthy identities at the intersections of race, gender, and power. But what I chose for us, I mean, we got a lot of videos we could watch, but what I chose for us was trans and non-binary perspectives on gender, sexuality, and masculine and feminine. So that's what we're watching today. We are visiting the Gnostic sex cult to see how the trans and non-binary people in the Gnostic sex cult feel about gender, sexuality, and the masculine and the feminine. So we're gonna do that. See, occasionally, this is my podcast voice. It doesn't often make an appearance on the show because most of the time when I'm streaming on YouTube for some reason or another, I'm always yelling at people. And maybe I should just try to tone it down a little bit. Maybe I should just do podcaster voice all the time. I don't know. You guys let me know. What do you think? Do you prefer me yelling or do you prefer podcaster voice? I kind of feel like if I did podcaster voice all the time, that I would put people to sleep. But maybe this is what people want. Maybe when people are consuming woke content, they just want something calm and they want something just chill. And that's all they want. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. Is my podcaster voice more cultish than my normal voice? Maybe we should do that next time I stream with Big Tech. I'm going to do this voice the entire time. I'm going to if Big Tech wants to stream from the Shadow Realm, then maybe I should just do this voice for the entire stream next time instead of just normal voice. I don't know. Maybe that would freak him out. Maybe podcaster voice would freak him out as much as it freaks me out that he's streaming from the Shadow Realm. I don't know. We'll have to see. This is my best whisper voice. I mean, it actually does seem to maybe I should just do this more often because it does actually seem to like not grate on my throat quite as much as my normal kind of presenting voice. Is it freaking you out, bot? It's freaking you out? Well, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. I don't know. We'll have to see. All right. It's enough of that. That's enough of that. Okay. See, I can change my voice if I want to. I'm just saying I know how to do this. No, but I did keynote talks for a while, and so I do actually know how to temper my voice, or I know how to get louder and more aggressive. And I can probably be somewhere in between as well. I don't really know. Well, that's enough of that nonsense, okay? Is that what I should read? That's what I should read all of my podcast. Well, I do kind of do that. That is the voice that I do my podcast in for realsies. And sometimes I get excited on my podcast too, and it goes back to my normal voice. But that is generally the voice that I do on the podcast. Well, Jimmy, no. Well, actually, let's talk about Jimmy Dore before we get into it. We have a couple orders of business. And Jimmy Dore is one of those orders of business. And I need everyone's help here. Hang on. Hang on, hang on. I'm putting something in the chat. One sec. Here is the tweet that we are looking at right now. Now, here is the thing. You know, for years and 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 years, people told me, Carlin, you should listen to Jimmy Dore. You would like Jimmy Dore. And I got to tell you guys, like it's not as though I never listened to Jimmy Dore, but the one or two times I listened to him, I like really wasn't all that impressed, and I didn't find it that compelling. No shade on Jimmy Dore, everyone has their thing, and I was just kind of like, eh. He just kind of seemed like everyone else to me, and everyone said, "No, Carlin, like Jimmy Dore is really great, and Jimmy Dore has integrity, and you would like him. He has receipts." And I was like, "I don't know about that," and people kept swearing to me, but I ignored them. Maybe my instinct got the better of me. And I got to tell you, I was more than a little disappointed just the other day when Jimmy Dore decided to tweet out to his 500,000 followers because I dared to question if he was telling the truth about Chase Oliver when all of Jimmy Dore's grifter friends on Twitter were lying about Chase Oliver. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy Dore pops up with a segment on Chase Oliver. And I said, I bet that's all receipts taken out of context. And the reason I said that was that every other one of Jimmy Dore's friends had been doing nothing else but taking receipts out of context. So why would I expect Jimmy Dore to do anything differently? And so I replied to someone saying, I bet that's all things that are just taken out of context. And then Jimmy Dore himself replied to me several times saying, you don't know what you're talking about. You just got caught. You have no credibility. And then he retweeted that out to his 500,000 followers. I hadn't even looked at the video yet. Quite frankly, it was in the queue to look at. Jimmy Dore, of course, decided to do this. Well, I was literally in the middle of my show and I was watching Tim Pool and I was going to deal with him first, which I did. And then I had on the docket that I was going to watch Jimmy Dore in his video, but Jimmy Dore just kept tweeting about me, saying I have no credibility, saying he caught me in some sort of lie, all that stuff. But sadly, by the time I was done with Tim Pool, I had yelled so much that I lost my voice. And so I had to take a little break and I had to do something else because my life does not actually revolve around Jimmy Dore's schedule. It revolves around my schedule. No matter how much Jimmy Dore's crying on Twitter, doesn't matter. It's like I don't he's not the boss of me. And so I had to take a break and do something else. And then I came back at 11 o'clock that night just to make sure, just to accept the challenge that Jimmy Dore extended to me on Twitter when he said that he caught me in some sort of act and that I had no credibility to his 500,000 followers. Well, as it turns out, within 3 minutes of starting Jimmy Dore's clip on Chase Oliver, we had already caught Jimmy Dore in a lie. And basically nothing that Jimmy Dore said in that clip was true about Chase Oliver. I mean, from start to finish, the whole clip was garbage. It was the same old clickbait talking points that had been brought up time and time and time and time and time again by Jimmy Dore's friends that are all over the internet. There was no difference. It was all just clickbait garbage that was taken out of context, exactly like I predicted. But within the first 3 minutes of that clip, Jimmy Dore used a piece of misinformation that had literally already been fact checked through a community note on Twitter. So by the time Jimmy Dore was talking about how, like alleging that he understood Chase Oliver's positions, it had already been community noted on Twitter. Which if Jimmy Dore was behaving responsibly and he cared about telling his audience the truth, he probably wouldn't be using misinformation that had already been community noted on Twitter within 3 minutes of the start of the clip. And in addition to that, he didn't even know how to say Mises Caucus. Like, The Mises Caucus isn't new. The Mises Caucus has been around for a long time. I was involved in the Mises Caucus in 2021 and 2022. I was involved in the takeover, but the Mises Caucus existed before that. Jimmy Dore didn't even know how to pronounce the name. And so, because Jimmy Dore had been so adamant that he had caught me in some sort of lie, I'm just some no one on the internet, man. Jimmy Dore himself said, I don't even know who you are, which is perfectly fine. I don't really care if Jimmy Dore knows who I am. It doesn't make a difference to me at all. But Jimmy Dore was adamant that he had caught me in a lie and that I had no credibility. And he was so adamant that he tweeted that out several effing times to his 500,000 followers without bothering to do the basic research to find out what was actually going on. And guess what? Jimmy Dore got caught. He got caught. And now, for the past couple of days, we've been trying to get Jimmy Dore to acknowledge that he got caught. But suddenly, Jimmy Dore had all the time in the world to reply to me straight away, demanding that I look at his video straight away while I was literally in the middle of a live show on the internet. He had all the time in the world for that. This occurred over the course of like several hours the other day. All the time in the world. And then all of a sudden, when we catch Jimmy Dore in a lie, when we have video, like hard evidence, there is no skirting around this. Jimmy Dore used something that had already been community noted on X in his show as though it were factually true. Like, full stop. There is no rationalizing it. There is no talking your way out of it. He did it. We caught him. And he still has yet to acknowledge it. Not a peep coming out of Jimmy Dore's mouth, or Twitter account for that matter. And so I need everyone's help. I have a tweet that I pinned to the top of the chat on YouTube. You can also find it on the very top of my Twitter. I will also put it over in the Rumble chat. Hang on. Here is what I need people to do. Now, I have tagged both Jimmy Dore's personal account and Jimmy Dore's show account. What I need people to do is two things. Number one, well, actually, maybe three things. Number one, I need you to heart this tweet. I need you to like the tweet. Number two, I need you to reply to the tweet. And I need you to demand to Jimmy Dore, or to basically say something to the effect of, I thought Jimmy Dore had integrity, but if he's not going to acknowledge that he was caught in a lie, then I just don't know if I can watch him anymore. I need you to reply to it and say something like that. And then I need you to quote tweet it, and I need you to write a little message. So, for example, hang on. So, for example, I need you to do like Xylacon did here. Wokeness all around us. Shameful, Jimmy, shameful. And then tag him. You have got to tag him. This is because it is very possible that Jimmy Dore may have muted me. So he might not even be seeing my tweets, but he sure as shit can see yours. So I need you to specifically tag him. Now, here's what I do not want. And I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. I don't want this. I don't want just tagging him with nothing else. I don't want this. If you're going to do this, do what Benjamin's doing here. I watched Carlin's show that day and saw how your insistence that Carlin quickly got back to your disrupted things, Jimmy Dore. So she is respecting your approach in wanting you to deal with this on here or on the show. It doesn't really matter what you write. Just write some sort of message to Jimmy Dore. Again, I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. I need more than just you tagging him, though, because this is not going to get it done, guys. The reason that I need you to write a message in a quote tweet is because if you write a message, first of all, that's going to be more impactful. Secondly, if you do a quote tweet, I'm then able to retweet that. Okay, so that gets more views on your tweet. It also gets more views on the original tweet. So, yeah, I don't know why your quote tweet is hidden, bot. That is weird because I know I saw it. I know I did. So that's what I need everyone to do. Okay. Well, he hasn't blocked us yet. And so if Jimmy Dore blocks us, that's fine. But we're going to keep doing this until he either blocks us or acknowledges that he was fucking wrong. But I need everyone to do this. Do not assume, because I can see how many people are doing this, guys. And there is a distinction between the number of people who are telling me they're doing this and the number of people who are telling me okay, and the number of people who are actually doing it, because I am actually paying attention here. So if I don't see a quote tweet from you, like, and I'm not like, you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do or anything, but this is how you get people to actually see what's going on. Okay, because we're not just doing this for Jimmy Dore. If Jimmy Dore doesn't want to acknowledge this, we want as many eyes as possible on this to show people what's actually going on. So every time you guys quote tweet something of mine, that gives me the ability to retweet it. I have 74,000 followers on Twitter. So you might just say, Carlin, I only have like 38 followers on Twitter. I just don't know why this is worth anything. Well, you might only have 38 followers. I have 74,000 followers. Okay. And so if you quote tweet something, then I can retweet it to 74,000 people. And then people can reply to it and it gets more views on it. And that is the only thing these people care about. I'm sorry, Kelly. Most of them don't even read their YouTube comments. Twitter is the only thing these people care about. This is why we're specifically going to Twitter to reply guy to James Lindsay, okay? Because Twitter is the only thing these people care about. So if you want to participate, if you don't want to participate in it, if you're like, Carlin, this is bullshit, I don't really want to do it, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you what to do, bro, but if you want to help out, there are very specific things that are helpful and there are very specific things that are like not as helpful. And I want to make sure that people are clear on this. And we're not, they can hide your comments on YouTube. They might not even ever see them. YouTube can delete stuff as well. So I don't care. If people want to go comment on his YouTube, that's fine. But the Twitter is actually the more important thing, because every single time that someone tags either Jimmy Dore or Jimmy Dore's show, that pops up a notification on his end. And if he starts seeing a lot of notifications from people, that's when he's going to be more likely to get his ass in gear and actually respond. This is why the Groypers do what they do, guys. And this is why the Groypers are relentless. We've got to start being relentless with these fucking hacks every time they fuck something up. No fucking mercy. Tag them as many times as you want. Shit talk them as many times. Like read them. Jimmy Dore is lying to people. Let's be clear. Jimmy Dore is fucking lying to people. He's lying to millions of people. Read him the fucking riot act. Tag him so he can see it. Quote tweet it so I can both like it, and which also sets off a notification, by the way. Liking tweets sets off a notification too, so that I can retweet it. So maybe I can even quote tweet you and tag them again. Yeah, isn't it funny too? Dave Smith was on Jimmy Dore yesterday, I think, or the other day. I forget which day it was. And Dave Smith apparently is now no longer gonna do any work for the Libertarian Party because it's just over. Dave Smith lost, and Dave Smith doesn't control the presidency, or excuse me, not the presidency. Dave Smith doesn't control the presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, which was always his goal in the first place, was to grift and 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 grift on the Libertarian Party as long as he possibly could. And now that Dave Smith has lost the ability to control the presidential candidate, he believes so much in the Ron Paul revolution that he's walking away and sending everyone right back over to the Republican Party. Good goddamn riddance. Honestly, that's how I feel about it. That's truly and sincerely how I feel about Dave Smith. I never thought Dave Smith was funny in the first place. Dave Smith is a coward. Dave Smith has always been afraid of me, which now we know he probably should have been. I mean, I can only surmise. Like, I always wondered, like, why the fuck is Dave Smith afraid of me? Because, like, even when I was on his team, I was 100% on the Mises Caucus. I was fully fucking bought into that. Like, no, unquestioningly, I was talking about it all the time. And I was like, why the fuck is Dave Smith afraid of me? Well, maybe Dave Smith sensed on some deep psychological level that I could root out his phoniness just through sheer instinct. Is all I can gather, because I'm actually really good at rooting that shit out. But yeah, now Dave Smith is like, I lost. I'm taking my toys and going home. It's all over. The Libertarian Party is meaningless. This guy has been grifting millions of dollars off of being the guy that was going to usher in all these new people to the Libertarian Party for years and years and years and years and years and years and years. And now he's like, it's all so pointless. Just go to the Republicans. Just go to the Republicans. This is literally what Dave Smith is doing, and it's gross. It is disgusting. It really is. And I say that as someone who generally does align with Dave Smith on policy positions, but goddamn, what a fucking coward. What a fucking quitter. And that's true of all the Mises Caucus. Like, all the ones that are like, we lost, so we're gonna go be Republicans now. Good fucking riddance. I've said this before, I'll say it again. And this is separate from the topic we're doing today, but allow me this point of personal privilege. I've said this before, I'll say it again, that I am very, very, very lucky in that I didn't learn about libertarian philosophy from fucking podcasters. I didn't. I learned about libertarian philosophy from Dennis Pratt and other libertarians in New Hampshire. That's who I learned from. I didn't learn from podcasters. I didn't learn from people I was hero worshiping. I didn't like learn from Twitter. I didn't just take things that were popular and, getting likes and retweets and all of that. I literally learned from some of the strongest libertarian activists in the country. And so I think the reason that I didn't get sucked into this Mises Caucus fucking tribalist bullshit is I didn't most people who came in through the Mises Caucus only learned from other people in the Mises Caucus. They didn't have the advantage I have of living in New Hampshire and having access to those types of activists, okay? And so I really think that, and also all of them are terminally online. Everyone needs to log off. By the way, fuck you, Karen Ann. Do you guys know what Karen Ann Harlos did? Karen Ann Harlos, biggest goddamn snake in the Libertarian Party. Let me see if I can show you. I'll show you. Hang on. It's on my Twitter somewhere. Hang on. Give me again. This is a point of personal privilege. Karen Ann Harlos is the pink-haired secretary of the Libertarian Party. Yeah, the pink-haired lady. So in the Libertarian Party, there is a public mailing list that anyone can access. And a lot of discussion on the LNC. The LNC is the Libertarian National Committee. It is the executive board that governs the Libertarian Party. Anyone can go onto this mailing list and see what the LNC is publicly talking about, okay? And so, isn't it funny that the other day, the pink-haired snake, Karen Ann Harlos, sends out this long email to the LNC, basically stating, I'm not suggesting we do this. And, I really wouldn't want to see this happen. But, there is a thing in our bylaws that state that we can remove the nominee for the party if 3/4 of you vote to remove the nominee for the party. But I don't think we should do it. And I think there are other solutions to this. But, there's a lot of controversy around the nominee for the party, and some of his positions are just causing a lot of controversy. And so there is this provision in our bylaws that say we can remove the nominee to the party. But, I would never do that. But I wouldn't be responsible if I didn't tell you guys that this existed. And I'm just saying, and I'm not saying I want to do it, but I'm just saying that we can do it if we want to. She is such a fucking snake in how she worded this. And you can tell that when you read the entire thread. If you want to read the entire thread, you can do it online. I'm happy to provide a link that anyone wants to read it. And it's like people started calling her ass out immediately. And this is one of the things that was said, and this is from Dustin Nana, who's a member of the LNC. He's a regional representative. I'm not voting to overturn the will of the delegates, nor am I voting to pass a resolution every time our nominee says something a portion of the party disagrees with. It has been 3 whole days since we selected our ticket. Please let them do the work they were entrusted to do by the delegates at the National Convention. No one cares what the LNC thinks, to be fair. We've got a lot of work to do in the next 5 months. Let's make sure our team is working towards the highest vote totals possible in November. And that was basically the sentiment that Karen Ann Harlos got. But there were also people like Karen Ann Harlos kept replying, going, I'm not suggesting we do this. I'm definitely not suggesting we remove the nominee. Just because I sent out an email saying that there is bylaws that allow us to remove the nominee, don't think I'm suggesting it. I'm definitely not suggesting it. I'm just telling you there are bylaws that allow us to remove the nominee. She is fucking double talking this to it, like, and it's so obvious what she's doing, and it's so fucking gross. So gross. So I'm sorry. All of these people that are causing problems right now, Karen Ann Harlos, Dave Smith, basically the entire fucking Mises caucus. I mean, like Tim Pool, Jimmy Dore, all the grifters that are just taking these screenshots off of Twitter and going, this is what the truth is. All of them are terminally online. They literally spend their days online. And that's all and this is all they know. All they know is Twitter clout. And it is so goddamn gross. I used to have so much respect for Karen Ann Harlos. I never didn't respect Karen Ann Harlos until she spit directly in my face when I questioned the wisdom of removing the elected chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire because he took away the keys to the Twitter account for 2 fucking days. Anyway. So that's our libertarian update. But the big thing that I want people to know and the big thing that I want people to do again is I really want everyone to be tagging the ever-loving F out of Jimmy Dore and Jimmy Dore's show and demanding that he fucking apologize. And tell him flat out, Jimmy, I thought you had integrity, bro. I thought you always told people to look at evidence, bro. But when evidence is presented to you after you publicly accuse someone of having no credibility, then all of a sudden your lips are sealed? Bro, be fucking better. Be better. So that's that. The URL is pinned to the top of the chat if you would like to do that. I would really appreciate it. In other news, this is the last day of the big 25% off Red May sale on unwokeart.com, which is my merch website. And as a reminder, I am going to be cleaning out merch on the site because I need to reduce the number of items in the store. There's way too much shit in the store. And I've got a lot of cool other designs. But last night I launched a new special design, so you can get all this at the last minute. Here's the deal. For another 6.5 hours or so, if you use the promo code REDMAY, REDMAY, in the Unwoke Art Store on purchases of over $100 or more, you get 25% off your entire order. But last night, in honor of Trump becoming a convicted felon, I launched a new design. It is the American Gangster design. You can see right here. And I always launch things on black, and it's got Trump. It's got orange steel Trump. But I've also got some other colors. We've got an orange shirt. We've got a navy shirt. We've got an oxblood black shirt, which actually I'm really liking this oxblood black. I'm going to get some more of these shirts. And I also, for those who are asking for a lighter shirt, I did a nice sand dune color as well because people have been asking for lighter shirts. It is summer. So we've got a couple different shirt designs. We've got a hoodie. But really, the big hit, the golden mug is back. Now, the golden Trump mug, my original golden Trump, is one of the most popular things that I have ever sold in the store. This is the American Gangster golden version. And as you can see here, what's really cool about this is, you know how the letters are white on the t-shirt design or on the other mug designs? Well, on the golden Trump mug, they don't print white on the golden Trump mug. And so the letters are also appearing in gold. And I think it looks like a sick design. And so this design is only going to be available for 2 weeks. Okay, this is a limited edition. Donald Trump, American Gangster. and the golden Trump mug. And so pick it up in the store while you can. It's only going to be available for 2 weeks. And as a reminder, you've got, again, 6 more hours to get a special deal. If you buy over $100 or more of merch in my store, you will get 25% off with the discount code REDMAY, REDMAY. And that includes the new American Gangster merchandise. And it'll still be available after today for the Trump stuff, but it'll go back up to normal price. So now is the great time to buy it. It's Friday. Why the hell not? I know some of you just got your paychecks. There it is. There it is. There it is. All purchases do go to support the work I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? But come on, man. Isn't my merch cool? I have some of the coolest fucking merch on the internet. I really do believe that. So check that out. Everything in the Unwoke Art store is up for that 25% off discount. So go find some cool shit, guys. And I appreciate the purchases. And last thing, please make sure you are subscribed to my Substack, which is Carlyn, Karlyn, .substack.com. And of course, if you have yet to watch the How to Speak Socialist crash course, please make sure you put some time on that for your schedule. I know it's 4 hours long, but if you're coming back and you're watching my content again and again and again, and you have not yet seen my How to Speak Socialist class, this is going to help you an awful lot to become fluent in the language of socialist a lot quicker. It's filled with clips that I've taken from real leftist trainings that we've been watching on this channel for years now. So you have it all in one place. I explain everything. I break down everything. People got the chance to ask questions. It's a really good training. I'm really proud of it. So you can find that over there on the Substack. Again, that's Carlyn, Karlyn.substack.com. And if you do want to support the work I'm doing and get access to extra perks like community Zoom calls, like the supporter Discord, where we do movie nights on Sundays. What movie are we watching on Sunday? Is it Superman? We're watching some blockbuster movie on Sunday. I'm pretty sure it's like the original Superman. Fact check me if I'm wrong. We're watching June is starting blockbuster month for movie night. That's what I thought. We're watching the original Superman on Sunday at 8 p.m. in the supporter Discord. And we will be watching, well, I mean, yeah, it's an old movie, Bob, but it's a classic. Everyone has to watch the original Superman. Don't watch the new Superman. The new Superman is trash. Okay? You got to watch the original. And you can come and do that with us in the supporter Discord when you sign up on my Substack. $8 a month, $80 a year. I really do appreciate it. All right. With that, let's get to the beer, shall we? Hang on. Bing. Now, these are basically leftover beers from previous streams, so you might recognize some of these. I gotta take my glasses off to read them. Hang on. Is the golden mug microwavable? Yes. Not dishwasher safe, though. Don't put that shit in the dishwasher. But microwave, yes. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Okay, our first beer for today. I'm going to tell you what beers I have. You guys are going to vote on which one I drink first. This is going to be from Magnify Brewing Company, a great brewing company. They've got great sour beers. And this is called Trade Proof. And this is a smoothie sour ale. So it's going to be a little thicker, a little creamier. And this is with guava, banana, and coconut. So this is our banana coconut beer. And this is out of New Jersey. That's option number 1. Option number 2. What's the percent? Let me see. What is the percent? This is 4.5. So this is a relatively low alcohol content beer. Our next one is going to be a great, like a beer can, obviously designed by a woman. This is Little Willow Brewing Company, and this is called Fruits of Labor. This is a pineapple and passion fruit sour ale, and this one has a little bit more alcohol in it. This is a 7% alcohol, so this is going to be our passion fruit ale. Our next one is going to be kind of one of my favorite staple beers, which is Sack Lunch. They do a great series of kind of fluffernutter beers where they combine peanut butter and some fruity flavors. And this is a tart cherry double jelly. So it's mostly a cherry beer, but it does have kind of a little remnant of peanut butter in it. I really like this one. And this one is, what is the percentage? 6% for the cherry sour. Okay. And then our last one, bing, is from Drecker Brewing Company. And this is also a PB&J theme, and it's literally just called PB&J. And this is with grape, plum, and peanut butter. And it is, where is the alcohol percentage? I don't see an alcohol percentage on this. Where is it? Hang on, I'll look one more time. I don't see an alcohol percentage. So mystery beer. Mystery beer with a mystery alcohol percentage. So I'm putting the poll in the chat. Again, we have coconut and banana. We have passion fruit. We have cherry. Or we have classic PB&J. Let me know which one you want me to drink first. And while you're doing that, I will get to the first presentation up for today. Well, the only presentation. This is an hour and a half long. The only one. The only one. As a reminder, guys, we are watching the Gnostic sex cult. We found the Gnostic sex cult and we are watching it for happy hour. This is going to be trans and non-binary perspectives on gender, sexuality, and masculine and feminine. Let's see how this poll is doing. And of course, guys, please always make sure you mount the like button for me. Mounting the like button lets YouTube know to actually recommend my content. I would really appreciate it. It looks like, holy shit, Cherry is winning by a mile. All right, last 10 seconds to vote in the beer poll. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cherry by a mile and a half. I'm surprised, but that's all right. I like this beer. I like this beer a lot, so that works fine with me. All right, let me get this poured. And if you are drinking something fun, let us know in the chat. Let's see. Look how pretty that is. Look how pretty. Hello, Queen Beth. Welcome in the chat. Happy Friday, guys. Cheers. Smells good. Smells good. All right, let's get this party started. We are learning about trans and non-binary perspectives on gender, sexuality, and the masculine and the feminine. Lisa Logan is coming in her pants right now.
Hi, Yossi.
Hi, Jordan. Hi, Teju. Before we move, I don't know if Andrea could still hear me, but I do want to say that you gave my soul a deep workout, and my eyes are wanting to sweat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I just feel teary and moved. So.
Oh, this is so woo already.
That was a good workout, and but I love that sweat.
Yeah.
It cleanses the soul.
It does.
This is already reminding me of like going to these woo-woo spirituality events. This is actually how people talk at those.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew, just stay with us the rest of the day, okay? Just stay with us.
This is for hours, just all.
Yeah. So we put the link to the poem in the chat, so everyone can access that. All right, Andrew, we'll say ta-ta for now. Hope to see you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Teju.
Let me know if it sounds crackly for the volume, because I just used a plugin to boost it.
What's next?
So, Yossi, we've got this trans non-binary panel next, and I'm just curious, after having heard Andrea, and we've had the men's panel yesterday, we had the women's panel. Tell us about your thinking in creating this trans non-binary panel in this summit.
Well, geez. Well, it seems like Andrea spoke so beautifully about what the world is facing in terms of the issue of gender. We looked at we did this poll, and 85% or more have pain around the issues of gender, and it's more and more young people who are wanting to be beyond the gender binary, and the trans rights and the transphobia and all of this are really real issues. And so we wanted to explore and heal the issues around gender. This seemed to be a crucial part of the conversation that we all needed to have.
Yeah.
I can talk for a long more time about it, but I'm not sure. I think we want to hear from our speakers soon.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Let's actually let's move into the panel. This is our trans non-binary panel. I'm so excited for this. I've been waiting for this moment. So I guess let's jump in. I'll start out with the intros. First up is Ashley Marie Preston. Hi, Ashley. So glad you're here. Welcome back. Saw you yesterday. Had such a good time with you. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing even better because whatever energy that whatever we just came in on the end of, the love and the clarity and the joy and peace and the hope is so palpable that like I feel like I just like walked. I don't know about yeah. Like I feel great. I'm absorbing whatever y'all put
Absolutely.
down.
Oh my gosh, yeah. What an incredible way to start the day. Absolutely. Ashley Marie, you're just a gem, and I would leave it at that, but I know some people weren't around yesterday, and some people actually might not know you. So I just want to introduce you a little bit this morning and then ask you a question before we move on to the next speaker. So Ashley Marie is actually an incredible model for humanity, and you've been a master at amplifying a message for the world that's really inclusive. So thank you for that work. You actually say, as women, those of color and LGBTQ people, we're often silenced while others speak as experts on our experience. No one can tell our stories better than we can. And you've done that. You've done that in your career. You've done that in your life. I follow you on social media. That's what you live. You're actually the first openly trans woman to become editor-in-chief of a national publication, the first openly trans person to run for state office in California. From going toe-to-toe with Caitlyn Jenner to speaking on countless people across your social platforms, you're not just an influencer. You are literally changing norms and shifting culture. So you can see more about Ashley's bio on the website, but for the sake of jumping in and not losing the momentum of this beautiful energy, I wanted to ask you a question, Ashley Marie. What has been your journey around gender and sexuality, both internally and how you present to the world?
My journey has been that, I don't know, I like to challenge the way that we think about gender altogether. I remember transitioning almost 20 years ago. And I remember that while other, trans sisters were, kind of trying to step into these, I guess like, ways of experiencing womanhood that felt more conventional, I lean more into my alpha nature because I'm from a very matriarchal family. The women run the show in my family from, rest in peace, my great grandmother to my grandmother. And so womanhood for me wasn't necessarily about shrinking myself or certain aspects of, leaning more into a docile or kind of passive role, but it was more about taking up space unapologetically. It was about healing, and there's a strong maternal sense that I have, but it's always been hard for me to really name that because I am who I am. That I don't think about, I think that gender is only a single facet of this beautiful gem of what it means to be a whole person. And so I wish I could answer that more streamlined, but it's like, I just don't like, I just don't think of gender, like, I really don't care. Like, which is like, so like, oh my God, because in the early stages of my life, I had to care because it was survival. I had to care because there were a lot of trans siblings that we lost to hate and violence. And I came through that time where you didn't disclose as much, or you didn't want people to know because it meant the threat of danger. We champion visibility today as a beautiful thing, and it is because we get to be possibility models and examples that you can still show up as your full self and thrive in life. And there's still this reality that visibility can also make you a target. And so, yeah, like I'm really blessed. I think that there's a lot.
So what they, them is telling us is that things have actually gotten a lot better for trans people, which is something they actually very rarely admit to. But they're like, I used to have to hide who I was, and now I can just be whoever I want, and I can be visible because things aren't as bad anymore. That actually seems like progress to me.
Privilege, because I also recognize that in my early transition, I was less visibly trans than a lot of my peers. And so I think sometimes it is important to name that some of the violence that they had experienced, not that it missed me or bypassed me, but it wasn't as extreme and intense as those who really had to grapple with dysphoria and things like that a lot more than probably I did.
So much for sharing. It's so nice to have that perspective, especially, you know, in this panel. But I feel like that's a perspective that you give. As I said, it's so nice to hear that from you, and so nice to see it and affirming. I feel very much the same way. It's funny, I was doing my hair this morning and I was like, do I look queer enough to be on the trans non-binary panel? I was like, wait, what am I saying to myself? I'm just me. And I still fall into that sometimes, even as someone who's been queer and trans and non-binary for years. So thank you for sharing that perspective and reminding us of that. Yossi, I wanna throw it over to you.
Does this person have an Adam's apple?
Thank you. I was also working on my hair this morning.
That guy's
Queer
definitely a
or
dude.
not. Anyway, joking aside, I'm going to introduce Alex as our next panelist here. So it's a true pleasure and a delight and an honor to be here with you, Alex. I first learned of your work through a seminar you offered at Somatic Experiencing International, which is a trauma healing modality that you are trained in and I'm trained in. And I think it was sold out. There were over 1,000 people. And basically you talked about the trauma of gender that we all experience. I was aware that we all suffer from gender, but it was the first time I really
We all suffer from, do you
got
guys hear that?
this idea of the gender.
Do you guys hear that? We all suffer from gender. Hang on. We all suffer. What does that mean? We all suffer from gender. Gender, the idea of gender, the social construct of gender, which was created by capitalism when it created the gender binary, which put men in the workplace, women in the home. That's also called the patriarchy. The social construct of gender makes everyone suffer because we are all oppressed under gender. Everyone get, if you don't understand why that is, please let me know in the chat. Sometimes when I'm going through this stuff, if you're new to my channel and you have questions, sometimes I go relatively quickly, especially through concepts that my normal viewers know because I have to repeat them every single time. But if I'm going too quickly, and I really do mean this, if you're new and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about, Carlin? Capitalism created the gender binary. Please ask the question in the chat, okay? Ask it on the chat on YouTube. Ask the question in the chat on Rumble. Ask the question in the chat on Twitter. I can see all of them. And if people do have questions about anything that I'm saying, just let us know and we're happy to stop and answer them. I just don't want to, I don't like, if everyone here understands what I'm saying, I just want to get through it relatively quickly because we just talk about it all the time.
Gender that we all experience. I was aware that we all suffer from gender, but it was the first time I really grokked this idea that gender is a trauma that every human soul that comes into this earth is really facing, and I'm truly grateful for you on that. You have written several books on gender and sexuality that are bestsellers. You know, as a therapist, you've work with and train other therapists, working with clients that are in the queer community, trans and
Yes,
non-binary, as
Marshall
well as broad
Applewhite, you're
range
right.
of other identities.
I was trying to place it.
So I would love to hear a little more about your personal journey around gender, and that you've been very open about talking about. And I'd be curious how you experience what some might refer to as masculine, feminine energies within yourself, and how their balance impacts your life and your relationships.
Thank you, Yossi, for the lovely introduction. And yeah, I do, I've always been fascinated by gender. And now, as somebody who's discovered my neurodivergence late in life, it makes sense. I've just been generally fascinated by humans. And this gender thing that looked very suspect to me from a pretty young age. I remember being at the playground, and there are photos of me at like 4, 5, 6 years old, and I looked like a little boy, and people thought I was a little boy, and I would go along with it, and I would be pretty happy with it, and you asked about that masculine and feminine. There's a picture of me as a little child, and I have this cute like pink dress with strawberries, and I'm in like one of the slow cars in a carousel, but I'm sitting like I'm a dude, and I feel like that encompasses like my essence, of blending masculinity and femininity. Kind of just a rigid gender binary never made sense to me and never quite fit. I remember even as a teenager, being on the bus, people would think I was a boy from the back because most of my life.
Well, okay, so this isn't really why they're doing it. I hope you guys understand this, right? I know that people who are relatively new to, and I apologize if you're not new to, but like you seem new to me. I don't recognize you on my channel. This is not about narcissism, okay? These people have been indoctrinated into a cult. You've got to understand that. The people who are doing this, it's because they've been indoctrinated into a cult, many of them for their entire lives, because this is in the K through 12 educational system. And so a lot of people who fall into this, like this person is saying they're autistic. A lot of autistic people fall into this. So it's not necessarily for like just they want positive validation because they're narcissists. They have been conned into this, and they're victims of this ideology. And the reason they're doing it is because the reason they're indoctrinating people like her into this cult is because they want to abolish the gender binary. They want to get rid of men and women. The goal of queer theory, the goal of queer Marxism is to get rid of gender entirely, because they believe the only way that you can achieve gender equity, which means everything is distributed equally. Equity is the same as Marxism. Or not equally. I shouldn't say that. From each according to their ability, to each according to their needs. So they believe that gender equity will only be achieved when they get rid of gender entirely. That's why these ideas exist in the world. It's not so much about like being narcissistic and needing validation and needing to feel special. They've been taught this ideology. And so people in a cult are victims just as much as anyone else. Josephine says, I'm new here. I'm in my 50s and I understand nothing about trans. Okay, Josephine, the biggest thing I want you to understand right off the bat is that, oh shit, hang on. I'll get to that in a second, human centipede. Josephine, the biggest thing I want you to understand right off the bat is that there is a difference between trans and queer. Normal trans people, and there are many normal trans people, just want to live their lives and they just want to be left alone. So normal trans people, no, you need, this is what we call conservative bullshit propaganda. This is only designed to make you feel morally superior and righteous. This is not about narcissism. It's really not. And if you treat it like it's about narcissism, then you will perpetually lose to them forever for the rest of your life. They will irrevocably disrupt our entire society. They will take away your parental rights. You will never be allowed to raise children in a normal way in this society. If that's what you want, keep insisting this is all about narcissism, because that's exactly what this tactic is going to give you. It's not about narcissism at all. I need you to listen. If you're going to be here, you're going to listen. Going back to Josephine's question, the base level thing that I would like people to understand is there is a difference between trans and queer. Normal trans people, people who transition from being a man to a woman or a woman to a man, they honestly just want to be left alone and to live their lives. They are transitioning gender. By very virtue of them going from one gender to the other, that means they uphold the gender binary. Whether or not a person wants to uphold the gender binary will tell you whether they are using trans to mean transition or trans to mean transform or transcend. Normal trans people who believe in the gender binary, they believe in men and women, are using the term trans to mean transition. That's good. You might not like that they're trans, but what's good about it is they're upholding the gender binary, which is men and women. As long as they're upholding the gender binary, I don't give a flying F what they do with their bodies. It's the concept of the gender binary that is actually the most important thing. Because if the left is allowed to destroy the gender binary, that means they're going to destroy the nuclear family. If the left destroys the nuclear family, that's it. That's the ball game. We are all irrevocably fucked. There are two things that we need to protect at all costs. That is individualism, that we see each other as individuals, as part of a meritocratic society. Individualism. Because you cannot have Marxism and individualism in the same place at the same time. We also need to protect the gender binary / nuclear family. Because if one of those things falls, the other is going to fall. And it's going to be in the most likely case, the gender binary is going to be the first thing to fall. And the reason I say that is it already is. 40% of kids in school consider themselves to be genderqueer, gender nonconforming, non-binary. Non-binary equals no binary. That's literally what they mean. Okay? So if the gender binary falls, the nuclear family falls, and then we are irrevocably fucked. So as long as someone is upholding the gender binary, as long as they're saying there are men and women, if they want to transition between the two, that's fine. The problem comes when someone wants to be non-binary, gender fluid, genderqueer. And what that means is they want to destroy or abolish the gender binary. Oftentimes, and you're already hearing it in this video, these people will call themselves trans, but they don't mean trans as in transition. They mean trans as in transform or transcend. And there are all these queer activist organizations who are now using the terms transform gender, transcend gender. You can Google it. Don't take my word for it. Just Google transform gender, transcend gender, and see how many things come up. They're changing the definition of what trans means with the specific purpose of abolishing the gender binary. Well, I might sound crazy, except that I have them on video saying this over and over and over and over and over again. I literally you guys want to take a break? Hang on. Let me show you. Let me show you real quick. Let me show you where I literally have them on video saying this. This is just one example. This is a queer Marxist named Mary, Dr. Mary Bowman. Dr. Mary Bowman is a professor at DePaul University, Dr. Mary Bowman was also a speaker at the Socialism 2023 conference that I went undercover at. Let's listen really quickly to Dr. Mary Bowman saying the quiet part out loud about all of what I just explained to you guys. Hang on. Let me make sure I'm starting on the right thing. Okay, here we go.
So on August 23rd, at the first debate of the U.S. Republican presidential primary candidates, multimillionaire Vivek Ramaswamy called for the abolition of the Department of Education. His argument hinged on how education starts in the home, and he closed by saying the nuclear family is the greatest form of government known to mankind. His glorification of the nuclear family is representative of the value set held by most on the far right. The idea that heterosexual cisgender couples with children are the beating heart of a free and prosperous nation. Underneath that belief, we see its ideological roots deep in the gender binary. The gender binary is a white supremacist invention born from men in power in the division of labor and care work in primitive Western Europe. I know all of it sucks. Male paternity became the absolute determinant of heritable wealth and property as class society was developing. Men in power sought exclusive right to their power, and women were excluded from participation in power structures. Domestic labor and care work were feminized and devalued. The gender binary was one aspect of the cultural devastation wrought by colonization. Prior to colonization, indigenous cultures the world over had more than two genders, with trans and non-binary individuals often holding positions of leadership. Expansive, non-binary gender expression and reproductive autonomy through contraception and abortion are ancient, sacred practices, and their repression has long been a tool of white supremacy.
All right, that's not the only one. Let her continue.
When Ramaswamy hails the nuclear family as the greatest form of governance.
No, she's not making broad sweeping statements. She's saying something very specific. You're new here. You're new. You don't know how to speak their language yet. And my chat will back me up on this. My chat will tell you that everything that I just explained is being backed up by her, except that she's speaking the language of socialist, which you don't know how to speak yet because you're brand new. And Dub is saying I'm correct. Never mind. Let's listen to the rest of this.
He is saying that the oppressive binary gender roles necessary to maintain the nuclear family are where oppressive government policies begin. Binary gender contributes to the creation and maintenance of a lower class of marginalized genders, cis and trans women, other trans people, non-binary and gender non-conforming folks who can then be more easily dehumanized and exploited. This is our starting point, the gender binary and its oppressive function. Colluding with white supremacy, colonization, and capitalism, we find the gender binary and ideology behind attacks on abortion,
Bro, you're not as smart as you think you are. Listen, I don't mind new people being here. I do mind people that are new, that are not listening, and that are disrupting the chat. So either you're here to learn and you're here to listen to what's being said and you're here to ask questions, or you can get the fuck out. I don't care about building the biggest audience in the world if you are not here to learn. Everyone in the chat, please educate our new friend here. Please educate our new friend. You don't need to take my word for it. There are people here who have been watching this stuff for me for literally years. And no, she doesn't just want to watch society burn. She actually has a very specific goal in mind. In fact, why don't I just go to that goal right now? Here is the goal. Actually, no, that's not the right clip. This is the right one down here that I want to show you. This is the goal.
And yes, ultimately, and if that wasn't clear from the end of my talk, that will require a revolution. We cannot be free under capitalism. We cannot be free in this society. as long as any person is in prison, as long as any person is denied health care for something necessary. No, that will never be free.
Will never be free under capitalism, which is why they want to abolish capitalism. Here's the part where they say they're using queer relationships, what we're literally listening to in that other presentation right now, to destroy the nuclear family.
But some of their fears may be legitimate, because destroying the nuclear family through sexual liberation and queer relationship anarchy sounds pretty great.
And what is the goal of destroying the nuclear family? Well, let's take a look at a video we recently saw from our good friend Sophie Lewis.
Yes, it's true. What the far right says, feminism wants to abolish the family. To hell with family values, and all capitalist value for that matter. And fuck parents' rights. My hunch is that just beyond the horizon, beckoning to those of us who want to hear it, there is a world of relationship no longer strangled by scarcity and no longer held hostage by economics.
So if you are new here, it's nothing wrong with being new. There was a time when all of us were new to this material as well. So there's nothing wrong with being new, guys. For the people who are questioning this, I don't mind people questioning it. What I do mind is when you refuse to listen to things that are put directly in front of you about what these people believe. And if you go and watch the 4-hour training I have on how to speak socialist, literally the entire second half of this, the entire second 2 hours is dedicated just to playing clips of them talking about how they want to abolish the gender binary and the nuclear family. So if you think I'm just talking about onesie or twosie clips, no. I have hundreds of clips just like this. And I've curated the most clear ones into this training where you can go and see what they're saying for yourself. You never have to take my word for it. They will tell you over and over and over and over and over again. So while I understand being new, and that's fine, I understand being skeptical because the things that I'm showing you are things that you have never seen anywhere else because no one else does the things I do. I understand that. What I will not tolerate is people who do not listen and who just create disruption because I'm not telling them what they want to hear. This is a place for you to learn. We don't mind if you ask questions. We need you to be curious. We need you to look beyond libs of TikTok and all of the clickbait bullshit that's happening on Twitter. Because what I'm showing you is what is actually happening in the real world. What I am showing you are the gender activists that are working in your kids' schools. What I'm showing you are the people who are actually doing the attacks on parental rights. I'm not showing you TikTok stars. I'm showing you the real fucking people. And either you want to know the truth or you don't. But if you don't and you do stuff like this, that's going to get you a timeout so that you can't continue to disrupt my chat. And if you keep coming back and being disruptive, I'm just going to ban you. Don't get the Nick Rekieta content twisted, bro. I'm all for doing content that allows me to take a break and allows us to think about things that are a little less crazy than the dystopian hell that we normally spend our time in, but don't get it twisted. I'm not here to kiss your ass, and I don't want the biggest audience on the internet. I want people that take this seriously, that are here to learn. And as you're going through the cognitive dissonance of overcoming all this, we will help you do that. Because a lot of people have done it before you. But I will not tolerate bullshit and nonsense. All right, let's get back to this.
I've had short hair apart from my 20s when I was really trying to heal, my internalized misogyny, in air quotes, according to second wave feminism. I tried real hard before realizing that actually my first instinct as a child, that gender was something that was much more fluid, much more playful, much more expansive was the right way to go. And luckily I got through that. But when I was a teenager, people would think I was a boy on the bus, and then I would turn around or I would speak and I'd be like, sorry. And I'm like, no, it's okay. That makes me happy. And it was a long time until I realized that not every teenage girl, in air quotes, because that's how I was identifying and seen at the time, would have been overjoyed to be mistaken, right? Again, in air quotes, for a boy. And so this gender thing was always pretty suspect for me. And when you ask about the masculine and feminine, I don't even know how to answer in a way, because for me, it's who I am, right? I have a pretty effeminate masculinity. I often, to explain it to my mom in Italy, because she was like, I don't get it. You used to play with musical theater, you were a theater kid. None of that screams like man to me. And I was like, well, first of all, because I'm not a man. But second of all, if I had been born a cisgender boy, it was like, luckily they do show Glee in Italy as well as in the US. And I was like, Mom, have you seen the show Glee? And she was like, yes. And I was like, if I'd been born a cisgender boy, I would not have been the footballer quarterback. I would have been like the super effeminate, like theater kid with like the feather boas around my neck, right? That is my type of masculinity, if we want to use that language. And of course we need to, because that's the language we have. But I think from very early on for me, there was a fluidity and a playfulness. Like, I like the pretty dresses and I like putting makeup on. But I remember even in my early 20s saying, I feel like I'm a drag queen when I, I have my hair long and I'll do my makeup and I'll put my, feminine clothes on and my heels, which was real bad at walking on. And I felt like a not very well-trained drag queen, to be honest. And when I came out as trans, all my queer friends, and it was mostly gay men actually, because I've always been, my community were like, oh, this makes so much more sense. There was like this,
oh shit,
finally you figured it out, right?
Human Centipede. I forgot to go back to what you were talking about. So Human Centipede, hundreds of Palestinian protesters just stormed the Brooklyn Museum. I heard about this earlier, actually. The Brooklyn Museum. I didn't realize it was 700 protesters. Holy shit. They're decolonizing the Brooklyn Museum. That's crazy. If people want to know more information about this, I'm retweeting the thing on Twitter right now, so you can find it at the top of my Twitter feed. Thank you for keeping an eye on that for us, Human Centipede. We really appreciate it. And of course, guys, all the protests that are going on, that's all related back to these people. These are not separate events. It's all the same, because all of their goals is to abolish capitalism, ultimately.
When it comes to the masculine and feminine, for me, there's just it's so tricky, right? Because it's like my oldest kid calls me mom because I was her gestational parent. And even though I transitioned when she was pretty young, she was like 4 years old. That's how she sees me. And I remember once, and I tell this story with her consent, she's a young adult now. We were in the dressing room and I was like buying a suit, and she called me mom, and I was like, oh, don't do that. What are people going to think? And she must have been 6 or 7. And she looks at me and she goes, mom is a job, it's not a gender. And this sounds like other people's problems, not mine. And I was like, you are right. And I am sorry. This is other people's problem. This is not your problem. And she was like, I don't get it. You're my mom and you're a he or they. What's the problem? For her being brought up around queer and trans and gender expansive community, there was never any confusion, so to speak. Whereas when other people heard her call me mom, they would expect a certain pronoun or a certain behavior, right? And even in way of kind of behavior, I'm a family main breadwinner. I'm more of a dad than a mom, even though I was a gestational parent. But I also do have a mom relationship with my kids, and so it is tricky, because I wouldn't even know if I had to separate the masculine and the feminine within me. I wouldn't even know how to do it. I think it's an alchemy within me that I can try to put into words, but I don't know if I can fully put into words, because it's who I am, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love it. The alchemy. And right now, I see this alchemy producing a lot of aliveness and delight. And so I just love the life force as it's showing up through you in this moment. Thank you. So I'll turn it back to you, Jordan too.
Thanks, Yossi. Thanks, Alex. Also, Alex, love your shirt. I was like playing Where's Waldo, finding the dino skulls. Love, love, love. Cool. All right, I want to invite Dilo into the room. Dilo is a queer and trans Tamil Sri Lankan American actor, writer, comic, and cultural worker. He works in all kinds of artistic
What's a
mediums, and as
cultural
you
worker?
can see, and you can see him in his own shows like Tati or Not Tati, and in TV shows like Looking, Transparent, Sense8. Most recently, Dilo was awarded the Artist Disruptor Fellowship through the Center for Cultural Performance and 50/50 by 2020, an initiative started by Joy Soloway. And he is also a senior civic media fellow through USC's Annenberg School of Innovation, funded by the MacArthur Foundation. Wow. And he is the creator of the Coming Out, Coming Home writing workshop series, which provides a transformative space for workshop participants to share their truth through public reading. Dilo, you are busy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm so happy. I mean, everybody is
Oh,
just so
that's a trans
gorgeous and
person.
beautiful, and we had to catch a little bit of
That's a
Andrea's before we
lady.
had to go into tech, and I'm just very grateful to be here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Gosh, it's so nice. It's like, it's nice to be reminded that we're in a safe space, and also that we too bring our own beauty and our own love and our own.
Well, Josephine, as I took the time to explain to you earlier, no one here has a problem if anyone is trans, as in transitioning from a man to a woman or a woman to a man. What we have an issue with is queer, which is non-binary, gender fluid, wants to abolish the gender binary. So that is what the problem is. And that is specifically what this is about, because it has non-binary in the title. Just because someone calls themselves trans doesn't mean they mean transition from man to woman or woman to man. A lot of these people use the term trans to mean non-binary, which is not what we like. And it doesn't mean transition. It means transcend or transform. That's not good. That's Marxism.
Energies and other people are feeling that way too. It just feels like being at home. It feels like being with family in a weird way, because I don't know most of you, but I'm just, my heart feels that way, and that's a really great reminder to you. I have a question, if you don't mind. I'd love to know, we're talking a lot about these energies.
Is this
the
a trans
masculine and
man?
feminine,
I can't figure this out.
maybe there are other words too.
I think this
as
is a
Andrea
trans
was saying,
man.
but I would love to know like how these energies and their balance impact your life, your work, your relationships, just romantic or otherwise. All the
Was
the
this
parts of your
person
life, how
born a
these
woman?
energies play into
Yeah, I know you just want to get into my sex life, but
that.
I'm gonna stick to something a little less sexy, or maybe it is. But I partially what I am.
Well, Josephine, if you're gonna hang out with us, you're welcome to hang out with us. And I know you're older, so we're gonna give you time to catch up. But if they were just a gay man, they wouldn't be on the panel about trans and non-binary. And they said they specifically called themselves queer at the beginning of the show. So that's not just a gay man. There is something else going on. They specifically said they were trans. Now, trans in this case can be a reference to non-binary, so maybe they were actually born a man, but they were born a more feminine man. But trans in this case can also mean they were born a woman and transitioned to a man. I think it's a chick on T. That's what I think.
Working on right now is, for myself, is it's like a deeper question of like, how is it that I need to, that I want to walk in this world as a human being? So it's very much informed by gender, but it's also informed by race and how I walk in this world as an artist, et cetera, et cetera. After, so a lot of my work has been also
true.
kind of
100%.
sharing
I
autobiographically
can't stand it.
how I viewed the world as a young person going through a lot, and then coming into queer adulthood, and then coming into an understanding of myself as a trans person, right? And I grew up in stud culture, which is, for people who don't know, it's predominantly BIPOC, masculine of center folks. So the studs that I grew up with were masculine women, or perceived as masculine women, but maybe identified as trans or genderqueer, gender fluid, or just a stud. Like stud in and of itself was like the perfect term. And stud culture was definitely and always predominantly Black. It was, and it is, like, people get subsumed by stud culture, but it's definitely Black. So I grew up knowing that my understanding of myself didn't exactly fit with stud AG culture. It was more like what Alex was talking about, like more, there wasn't a need to be as hard, and it was also like how I grew up. Like I didn't grow up like a lot of the other studs, right? And so, and I wanted space. I've always wanted space to have like a brotherhood and like camaraderie with other masculine identified people. And I think that when I realized like that I was keeping up with the masculine Joneses, which was basically me acting as if my feelings didn't matter at some point, or that I couldn't emote with other people as freely, or I had to like isolate in order to have my feelings. I started really looking at that. And I also went through the same thing as Alex did, which was like battling whether or not I really fit. Like, if I'm such a feminist and the feminists are saying trans masculinity is not supposed to be there, like that being a butch or a stud or a masculine woman was the biggest fuck you to the patriarchy, and that we shouldn't want to be men, then why did I desire to be a trans masculine person, right? Or trans. And so all of this, I know that I'm talking about a lot, but like all of this kind of just really squeezed me into a box that just didn't feel like I could breathe. And you would think that in queerness, you have the room to be expansive, but keeping up with the masculine Joneses means like, you know, that patriarchy is in the ether. You know what I'm saying? It's just like something that you inhale, and then it's just like, you can't get out of it. Right now it's in the air. You know what I'm saying? So, so now what my big question in my art has been is what is beautiful masculinity? And I know that there's another speaker here talking about tonic masculinity, which I'm very curious about too. But what is beautiful masculinity? And I'm not saying that it has to be what is void of what people would understand as masculine, but that it incorporates much more, right? And for queer people as well. So saying all of this, my latest project is, being that I know that I'm of a generation that I can say that I was socialized as female, even though I look like a dude, even though that everybody treated me like a dude, even from childhood, that
Josephine says it's interesting. He wanted very much to be a man, but he was told patriarchy is bad. Patriarchy is bad, because he doesn't see himself as part of the patriarchy, even though he's transitioning or transcending. We don't know which, but probably more on the transcending side, to be more like, notice Josephine, he's not actually saying man and woman. He's saying masculine. That's very different. Does everyone understand the distinction between saying man and woman and masculine and femme. Because if you say the terms masculine and femme, that's more fluid. That can change. Masculine and femme, it sounds like it's gendered, but it's really more like today I'm more on the I'm more masculine, or I'm more femme today. That's fluid. If you're saying man and woman, that is unchanging. That is the binary, man and woman. If you're saying masculine and feminine, that's more, that can shift depending on how you feel on any given day. Does that make sense?
There were certain expectations on my body and on my being that I'm informed by. And so I'm looking at right now why masculine people aren't seen as places of nurturing and of safety.
Bot called it actually in the pronouns way down here, he, they. This is not someone who's transitioning from being a woman to a man. This is a queer Marxist. They may not know they're a queer Marxist, but they are, because anytime we see they, them, she, they, he, they, that is a signifier of queer, and that means non-binary, and that means they're more on like the transcend or transform gender. Yep, queer always has the they pronoun. Or some other wacky neo-pronoun thing.
And I bring this up because you're like, what's your experience of everything in between? But even being transmasculine, there is an unspoken expectation.
See? Not a trans man. All right, bro. You're getting one more time out. You come back again and you're going to get banned. I'm not fucking around. There you go. Not acceptable. You've already gotten warned once. Did you hear what this person just said? Didn't say trans man. He didn't say even being a trans man, there's an unspoken expectation. Even being trans masculine. There's a difference.
Of me in masculine spaces to hold masculine grief. And that I might be somebody who masculine cis people can be close to and like open up to, because I'm not a woman, but I'm also not like I'm trans enough to be trusted. I don't know if you could read between the lines on that one, but that sometimes trans people aren't seen as a threat because we're so far like from the privilege that we could be trusted, because our secrets or our lives are like just so like out there. I'm going off tangent here, but basically what I'm saying is I'm curious to dig into why we as masculine people cannot provide nurturing and support to other masculine peoples when in this world we always put that burden on femmes and women, trans women as well. So anyway, that's what I wanted to kind of say, and I have like lots of thoughts about that, but I'm gonna just kill it right here.
Thanks for sharing that, Dilo. Trans enough to be trusted. Wow. Yeah. That's a lot. I know that's probably resonant to a lot of people in this panel, participants too. So thanks for sharing. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for being
super happy I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, Yossi, throwing it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. Before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to say, Dilo, I loved your question. What is beautiful masculine? And
Josephine, he thinks there is a difference because he's in a queer Marxist ideology. It's not about him being born anything. It's about he is in a far left political ideology. That is why he's doing it.
I think you can look at the video of your talk, of the recording, and we'll see an example of beautiful man.
One of the things I'm thinking about doing, let me know if you guys think this would be a worthwhile thing. Do you guys want to go back and watch Benjamin Boyce's Evergreen documentary from start to finish? I really think it would be. I've actually already seen it from start to finish at least twice, but I haven't watched it in a couple years. And maybe next week we can do like an evergreen kind of like Benjamin Boyce retrospective with discussion and all that. Benjamin Boyce doesn't like me anymore since this war with James Lindsay, so I doubt he'd talk to me or anything. But seriously, he unfollowed me on Twitter and everything. But he did still make a wonderful documentary. It is absolutely the best coverage on that topic anywhere. And so maybe we can watch that. That can be like a project that we do all next week. Yeah, exactly. Benjamin Boyce can cry about how James Lindsay is clear. Even, which is sad because even Benjamin Boyce knows James Lindsay's wrong. He knows it. He was pushing James on this. In the last, he's like, James, are you still on this Gnosticism thing? And he knows James is wrong, but you know, so it goes. I don't have any ill will towards him. I think he's a good person.
Masculine that can also be nurturing and all the things you spoke of. So thank you for that. Anyway, take a breath here.
Yeah, but I, quite frankly, Jane, I don't give a flying fuck if he did a watch party, because what I'm talking about is not just sitting back and watching everything. It's actually doing a thorough analysis of it with the benefit of all of the socialist stuff that we've done then. So this is not about what Benjamin Boyce thinks about it, quite frankly, because I don't think Benjamin Boyce understands the far left as well as we do. I know that might seem bizarre to some. I think he understands a lot. I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I don't think there is any group of people on the internet that understands the far left in the way that we understand them. And I want to go back and watch it again with the benefit of all of the knowledge that we have accumulated since. So whether or not Benjamin did a watch party is really immaterial, because I'm more interested in the analysis than in the actual watching. Queerness is expansive, so queer is whatever is counter to capitalism. Yeah, basically, Joshua, exactly. So a biological woman can be a biological man and can be queer. Yes. Yes, Joshua, that's exactly correct. Exactly. Queer is a far left political ideology that is designed to be anti-normative, push back at anything that is considered to be the normal, the legitimate, the dominant. That's Derek Halperin. The goal of queer Marxism, according to the Mary Nardini gang, is the annihilation of capitalism. The number one goal of queer, and anytime you hear the term normative, that's anything that upholds the capitalist society. So you are exactly correct. A cisgender biological woman can be with a cisgender biological man, and both of them can be queer. Because to be queer is just to say that you are. You don't actually have to do anything. And you know, to be non-binary, who's to say what non-binary is? It's just to say that I am non-binary. That's literally all you need to do. Every single one of us in the chat could declare ourselves non-binary right now, and none of them would be able to question us, because there is no strict definition of non-binary.
And switch here to Marshall. Marshall, thanks for joining us. And yeah, Marshall, you've been an academic and a professor of women's gender and sexuality studies at a respected academic institution such as Williams College, but you're also...
Well, again, guys, queer has nothing to do with being gay. It has nothing to do with being trans. Queer is only and exclusively a political ideology. You do not, like, if you're gay, that doesn't make you queer. If you're trans, that doesn't make you queer. And you do not have to be gay or trans to be queer. But it's not, Zoe, it's not confusing when you realize that queer has nothing to do with being gay or trans. This is the most important thing that you need to learn. Anyone can be queer. It has nothing to do with your sexuality. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're trans. There are trans people who do not identify as queer. There are a metric ton of gay people that do not identify as queer. Because queer is only a far left political ideology. Yeah, I know. That's why we do this. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Hang in there. Ask good questions. For everyone new, ask questions.
A poet and a filmmaker, and in his interdisciplinary scholar, someone who explores questions of Black sexual and gender agency and health and creativity and resilience. You have been published in numerous academic journals. And while your work is very scholarly and academic in nature, I'm sure it is.
I also want to thank everyone in the chat for following up with what I'm saying. Guys, the most valuable part of my channel right now is I really do believe that the chat is just amazing, because it offers so much credibility to what I'm trying to teach when the chat is able to back it up, and the chat will be able to answer your questions. They'll be able to talk to you in different ways. So please pay attention to the chat, because they are just as informed on this topic as I am to a very large degree. Says, I've learned so much just from listening to you a couple of times. Hey, Zoe, I really appreciate that. Thank you for stopping by. Do you want to get banned from my channel? Is that what you're trying to do? Because I'm happy to ban you. We should if your goal is to get banned from my channel, we should just get it over with. Because you're testing boundaries like a fucking 5-year-old, and if you do it one more time, no more fucking timeouts, no more fucking warnings, do not pass go, do not collect $200, you're just going to be banned.
Also born out of your own gender journey around some of these issues and their intersection, namely gender, sexuality, and critical race theory. So can you speak a little bit about your journey and how that has impacted your work, and how these energetic polarities, I won't even mention masculine, feminine, whatever energetic polarities you want to talk about, impact your life and your relationships?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. It's really great to be here. It's really great to see everyone. Hey, D-Lo. So
He,
good to
they,
see you, brother.
pronouns he, they, clear.
Yeah, so for me, I feel like I have lived a very trans life, trans meaning to change, to transform. And that comes when I say
I'm sorry, what did he just say? Trans? I have lived a very trans life. Trans meaning, change to transform. What have I been saying? Some trans people use the term trans to mean transition from a woman to a man or a man to a woman. Queer Marxists do not use the word trans to mean transition. They use it to mean transform or transcend, as in transform gender, transcend the gender binary. What did we just hear? This person, by the way, he, they pronouns. What did we just hear? Again.
Trans life, trans meaning to change, to transform. And that comes when I say trans in this way, I'm speaking specifically of moving between spaces within the gender binary, between masculine and feminine. So there were times
when he says trans, which he means as transform, that's specifically to move in places beyond the gender binary, between masculine and feminine. This is exactly what I've been explaining for like the last hour and a half. Do you guys see? This is why we watch their trainings, guys, because you get to hear me explain it, and then you get to see it actually show up in the real world, so you can hear how they say it, because how they say it is not necessarily quite as direct as how I'm saying it, but it's still pretty clear once you know what to listen for.
Identified as what D-Lo was calling a stud, a masculine identified woman. There were times when I identified as a femme. There were times when I identified as trans. There were times when I was very, very transphobic. There was also times when I was very, very homophobic. I now identify as a queer trans man. I think I work with both of the energies of masculinity, femininity, and whatever else spirit, ancestors, the divine offers me to work with and model with. And I think that's a lot of what I do in the work that I do, both in my academic work, in my art, in my writing, and in the organizing work that I do, specifically right now in this moment with the Brown Boy Project, where we are piloting what Dilo is calling beautiful masculinity, we might call a liberatory masculinity. So what is a masculine?
Hang on. 2S means two-spirit. Basically, two-spirit is specific to indigenous cultures, Native American cultures, and it's basically like non-binary of like Native cultures, essentially. It doesn't mean trans. It means a person who encapsulates like masculine and feminine, or they transcend the binary. Yeah, it's specific to Native American. It's more popular in Canada than it is here. Thank you for asking.
That doesn't rely on a hegemonic patriarchal order. What is a masculinity that doesn't require the devaluation of femininity? And
doesn't rely on a hegemonic patriarchal order. What does that mean? Hang on, we'll go back. We'll listen one more time.
Was calling beautiful masculinity, we might call a liberatory masculinity. So
liberatory masculinity.
So what is a masculinity that doesn't rely on a hegemonic patriarchal order?
Liberatory masculinity doesn't rely on hegemonic patriarchal order. What does that mean? Liberate means liberate from the gender binary, which means to liberate oneself from capitalism, because if you liberate yourself from the gender binary, you are liberating yourself from capitalism, because they believe that capitalism created the gender binary. Therefore, if you liberate yourself from it to free oneself of, you are liberating yourself from capitalism. Hegemonic patriarchal order means the gender binary. Exactly, Steve. The gender binary, another word for it, is the patriarchy. And that also means that you're liberating yourself from capitalism. Exactly. Well done. Capitalism, capitalism, capitalism. Exactly, Josephine. This person does not believe in the gender binary. The gender binary is men and women. Patriarchy is another word for that, but they do believe in masculine and feminine, and they're fluid. The key to this, Josephine, is that they're fluid. They're not one or the other. They flow masculine to feminine, outside of the non-binary order. It's the abolition of the gender binary that is the most important thing. Yup, decolonizing yourself. Exactly. The patriarchy equals the upholding of the gender binary and the oppression under capitalism. No, it's not about Western society, Daniel. That's a conservative bullshit talking point. It's not about Western society at all. Let's see. Masculinity without the oppressive. I wouldn't say that necessarily. Capitalism, capitalist normativity. Yep. All right. You just got yourself banned. Goodbye. See, they always think I'm fucking around when they fuck around in my chat. I don't know. I truly and sincerely don't know why people waste their time. I am going, if you continue to fuck around in my chat, I'm going to ban you. If you don't think it matters, get the fuck out and go watch something else. It's really that simple. No one is forcing anyone to be here. Anyway, let's continue now that we have removed the riffraff.
What is a masculinity that doesn't require the devaluation of femininity in order for it to exist and thrive? So that's sort of, those have been sort of my sort of musings and queries on my own gender journey. It has been a lot of coming face to face with things I often feared the most. So I grew up in a very evangelical Christian Kojic household, and I really was a very homophobic kid. And so to then be faced with my own potential queerness was a very scary thing. So it required me then to change my relationship to what God is, who God is, what the divine can be, what the divine can hold, versus what I have been told about those things. Yeah, so I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful. The problem, what is the divine? I think part of the tragic things is that so much misunderstanding is that we think God is a he. And I think God is so much more than that. I've written an essay about that. So anyway, I won't go there. But yeah, I love how, both you and Dilo are talking about this beautiful health.
We're really going to have to dig back into the Party of Socialism and Liberation like soon, maybe even tomorrow for Socialism Saturday, because they're just causing all sorts of trouble all over the country. And oh, wait, remind me, who said back in November of last year that the Party for Socialism and Liberation was going to be the ones causing trouble and starting protests and doing riots and stuff like that? Who said that? Remind me. Does anyone remember? Who called it that it was going to be the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and no one fucking listened? Because why on earth would they listen? Yeah, that was me. Yeah. I did. I said it last November. That was me. Why did I say the Party of Socialism and Liberation was going to cause a bunch of problems? Because we found the Party of Socialism and Liberation on video saying explicitly fucking explicitly that they were going to redo the riots of 2020 and 2024, and they were going to be even bigger this time. This video is on my Substack. It was also part of Socialism Saturday. It was very, very clear. No one listened, and now here they are. And Stu Studio, thanks to Dragon Tail, I saw this because he retweeted it. Stu Studio has just tweeted out a video of a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation with Hillary goddamn Clinton at Wellesley University.
The masculinity, and I've been searching for that as a cis man, and it seems like I have to come to this trans queer movement that deconstructs all the history for us to look at it in a fresh way to discover what healthy masculinity is. So that's what's coming to me right now. So thank you.
Well, something you make me think about, Yossi, when you say that is, as we think about this conference and it happening again, like how might we do things differently or change things up a little bit? We have the men's panel, the women's panel, and then the trans and non-binary panel, but trans and non-binary people can be on every single one of those panels. And so what would that look like? Instead of being like, oh, I have to go to these trans and non-binary discussions to understand a different kind of masculinity, what would it mean to have different kinds of men, different kinds of women, kind of shape those conversations as well?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. In fact, we discussed and went around that very issue quite a bit as we were thinking through this. So yeah, that very well may be the right thing to do in the future. So yeah, makes a lot of sense what you're saying. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Thank you all for those insights. It was nice to meet you all, or to get to know you all a little bit before we jump into the next part of this panel, which is a group discussion, a free for all, if you will. So I just invite everyone to share and to react and respond to what we've heard the others say. Maybe to kick us off, as we talked about our own perspectives, as we're sharing our experience, our strength, and our hope, I wonder if there's anything that we might want to share, any insights that we have, especially to impart on those who are listening, the participants in the panel today.
I think I would just start in the beginning, just as like general housekeeping. that there is a difference between gender identity and sexual orientation. My sister Janet Mock says it ever so eloquently. Gender identity is who I go to bed as, and sexual orientation is who I go to bed with. And I think oftentimes what happens is that people feel like in order to understand who trans people are, they enter through our underpants and then work their way up instead of entering through our heart directly. Like they don't have to like, detour. And I think that that's important to name because oftentimes it's even when we get into the whole thing around, we choose this, like trans people choose, like that's your preference or that is your, and for me personally, one of the things that I realized early on is that, and I don't know, we didn't have intersex as language when I first, was growing up. This is kind of still a newer conversation because many people didn't even know that they were choosing these surgeries for infants, who were born, intersex. But I remember developing at 9 years old, secondary female characteristics, breasts, curves, all those different things while having been assigned male. And so, I guess like that's just kind of, I hope that at some point in the panel, we get to talk about the idea that we choose this or that being trans is a choice. So I'm gonna step back and let other people jump in, but I'm excited to talk more about that later.
Oh, slime drop. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a very recent experience, Ashley Marie, where I'm on the market, I'm dating, and it's always annoying, to say the least. I mean, we have a good time, right? But I just kind of want to fast forward past this part. So, I was explaining to on this date that I'm queer, trans, non-binary, and they were like, whoa. Wait a second. Can we start at the very beginning? And immediately went to this question like, well, do you have a penis? And I was like, all right, this date is not lasting very long, first of all. But it is just like this.
I told you. Rottweiler.
Maybe it's
Rottweiler. Look. Also, in the pronouns, they, she, and he. This person goes by all pronouns. That is a biological woman, Rottweiler. I told you. Yes, you got banned on your other account because I told you to stop doing something that you then kept doing. If you don't want to get banned on this account, stop doing the thing I told you to stop doing. Ha! Rottweiler owes me $2. No, they, she, he didn't say they were. Well, it kind of seemed to be made very clear that they, she, he did not have a penis because they were very offended by being asked if they had a penis. No penis. It's fine to be a rascal, but if I ask you to stop doing something, you need to stop doing it. If you don't stop doing it, I'm going to ban you. You obviously have a second account. You can be here under your second account until you keep doing the things I have repeatedly asked you to stop doing. And if you get banned again, I'm just not going to give you another chance in the future. I'm trying, bro. You are not trying. Let's listen again.
I just kind of want to fast forward past this part. So, I was explaining to on this date that I'm queer, trans, non-binary, and they were like, whoa. Wait a second. Can we start at the very beginning? And immediately went to this question like, well, do you have a penis? And I was like, all right, this date is not lasting very long.
No penis.
But it is just like this. I can't. I mean, maybe it's everybody's not there, but I just can't believe in that we're still asking those questions. I go back to that, Katie Couric interview. Like I was like, okay, well, that was the end of that. We won't ask that question anymore, but here we are still still asking that. So thanks for that reminder. And it is still important to talk about, because my dating life is of the utmost importance. So thank you for that reminder.
I just wanted to respond to this idea around choice, because I think I might have a little bit of a different opinion than a lot of queer and trans folk, and that is, I do think it is a choice to love who you want to love, to embody your body in the way that you want to embody it. I think there are like obviously obstacles to being able to like, if you are a trans person who wants to biologically transition, there can be medical obstacles and things like that, financial obstacles, but I think you do make a choice. And what I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I often feel like people will say, it's not a choice, I was born this way. Okay, yes, but it also sounds like you're saying, if I had a choice, I wouldn't choose this. And the truth of the matter is, if I had to come back here, I would still choose to be a Black trans man and come into the world the same way that I came into the world this time. And that is not the case for every single person. And this is why you have to get to know trans people, because we are all different, and we all have different stories and understandings of our gender journeys, right? But for me, it is absolutely a choice. And to me, what's important is that it's a choice that you will respect. Why? Because I said so. And that's it.
Doesn't actually work like that, but okay.
Thank you so much for adding that other perspective to it too. And I just want to clarify that when I say it, I definitely would choose to be who I am. It's added depth to my character, who I am, my ability to embrace, to accept, to love, to honor people's self-sovereignty, all of those amazing things. I think I meant like along the lines of like, kind of like how Alex was talking about people seeing, you from behind and then being like, oh, that's a guy. And then I just wanted to exist. I honestly, like, in that choice, sometimes there's an expectation that we have to perform for other people. And I just wanted to breathe. I just wanted to hide, especially as a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, CSA. I was not trying to be perceived. Even to this day, at 38 years old, I am tired of being perceived. And so my choice isn't necessarily limited to this single axis of transness, but my choice is to show up as my most authentic self. My choice is to
does look like
step
Kenan
into
Thompson,
my
you're right.
ultimate, like, the fullness of what's for me. I said it recently in a Instagram post the other day. I said, what's for me will find me. But in order for it to recognize me, I must be showing up as my most authentic self. And so I think taking it even deeper to make it capacious enough to be able to encompass all that we are, when we say that, the choice, that choice is so multi-layered and so multi-dimensional and so multifaceted. And so my choice is, to just show up as my most authentic self, and exactly what Marshall said, and you have no choice but to deal.
Yes. I wanted to just tag on to that too, just to highlight something, is that I feel like just in the same way that Marshall was talking about being transphobic, and we always have our internalized stuff, everybody does, but then we also, I think that for trans people, it's like there's messaging around so much that is anti-trans, anti-queer, that the internalized stuff is just very pronounced and loud, right? And no matter how we walk and travel in this world, there's always that little thing, like even when we're feeling at the highest high, that might be where we feel it like the littlest, but like it's there, it's lurking. And just recently, meaning like in the past, I would say like in the past 8 to 10 years, we have seen people, and especially in the pandemic, with people like being able to sit down and like observe and or not even observe, self-reflect, like having a little bit of time to self-reflect, we're seeing more and more people coming out as non-binary, people who are in what you would perceive to be a cis-normative relationship, but more and more people identifying as non-binary and trans. And it is, I think that it is that people are like, this gender is, these gender roles, these gender boxes are so bogus. They've never been able to, the way that I've had to make myself small in order to fit this thing, I am ready now. There's like, you know, we had all sorts of reckonings, racial reckonings, gender reckonings, a whole bunch of shit happened in the pandemic. And I feel like what's so great is that, you know, like in some ways I'm like, oh no, I don't want you to be trans, but because maybe their politics don't match mine, but that's my personal opinion. But like sometimes I'm like, oh, I really enjoy that everybody is being non-binary and like being fluid in their understanding of self and like really experimenting what that really looks like for them, because there's that's the freedom we can offer one another, is to
All right, guys, I gotta go to the little socialist room. I'll be right back. Take good notes for me so I know what's happened when I come back.
just, as Ashley Marie said so beautifully, like she just wanted to fucking exist, you know? And so I feel like I think that now we're allowing each other to exist in a way that we haven't been.
Alex, I see you nodding a lot. Would love to hear what's going on for you.
I'm just resonating with so much of what's being said. My brain is going in 500 different directions, but let's see if I can focus in a direction that makes sense. You know, I'll start from what Gila was saying about more people coming out as trans and as non-binary. I think it is pushing back against this trauma of the rigid gender binary. And I think it is not just a cultural trauma, but I think it's a historical trauma. You know, it's part of the ongoing settler colonial project. It's part of Christian supremacy. It's part of white supremacy, right? And people are starting, you know, those boxes are starting to show some cracks more and more, right? And I think it is pushing back against this rigidity that makes us all constrict, right? Because there is so much policing, so much carceral logic that's tied with the rigid gender binary that we all have to like constrict, right? And so then I think about this piece of choice, right? I so agree with what everybody has been saying, you know, when Marshall was saying like, yeah, I would choose this, because for me, that's been part of my healing, right? There was always a part of me that was like pushing back against just being put in just one box, right? And even when I'm working with my clients, I often say, you know, you can do whatever you want, body sovereignty and autonomy. And I just want you to think about not rushing into.
Hang on, let's see this question from Prometheus. I've had a lingering question. Since queer is anti-normative, when capitalism is overthrown for Marxism, would the queer activists then try to overthrow the new Marxist norm, lest queer disappears? I think we're an extremely long way off from that, Prometheus, because it's like, it's, I'm sure this isn't a question they've even thought about, because it's like, even when capitalism is overthrown in the United States, and I do believe it's a matter of when, not if, even when that happens, there's going to be a long effing period of transition. And so it's kind of one of those things where like, this is not something we even have to worry about in our lifetime. And that's, I don't think they've thought out that far, but it's a good question. It's a fair question. Maybe we should keep an eye out for information on that. I don't know the answer to it. Well, okay, so Zoe, what they say is, Zoe says, I wonder what the percentage of transitioning male to female actually go through bottom surgery is. So what they say is it doesn't matter. It makes no difference at all. This is why they were heavily emphasizing that like you shouldn't be asking about genitals, because they say that bottom surgery doesn't even matter at all. Let's see. Dragon Ball, thank you for being a member of the channel for 3 months. Trans and non-binary is sounding less like a choice, like coming out in the 80s and 90s. Is choice an oppressive, rigid idea? Is queer a choice to them? I think some of them view queer as a choice and some of them don't view queer as a choice. I've never heard them explicitly say either way, I don't think. But I think that a lot of them would probably say that queer is just who they are. They don't view queer as a far left political ideology. So I think they view it as like an innate part of their being, and it just happens to be that they're all on the far left. Thank you, Rottweiler, for the super chat. Guys, as a reminder, if you want to support the work I'm doing, super chats are a way to do that. You can also sign up as a member of the channel. You can also head over to my Substack, carlin.substack.com. Sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. I really do appreciate it. You can also gift memberships to my channel if you feel so inclined. Oh, Dragon fucking hell. Dragon Tail, not Dragon Ball, Dragon Tail. Sorry. I think I was thinking like Dragon Ball Z or something like that. It's been a long week, okay, Dragon Tail. It's been a long week. Cut me some slack.
One box to another. There's a whole landscape, there's a galaxies to explore, right? It's like, and for me, that choice of being authentic, and of course, we can talk about how complex it is, how there's layers of safety, right? For me, as somebody who's perceived as white, it's a lot safer to move in the world as a gender expansive person and not necessarily have people put me in one box or another. That would be for some of my Black and brown siblings, for example, in my understanding of how we move through the world in what we currently call the US, right? And so I just have so many thoughts that I can't even tell you. They're just babbling all in there. But there's something about that when we are authentic, when we can be ourselves, it's healing not just ourselves, right? But it's also healing culturally, healing socially. It is pushing back against all these different forces, let's call them, of settler colonialism, of white supremacy, of Christian supremacy, that want.
Can we please not talk about Holocaust revisionism right now? Please, I am begging you. Listen, come to my watch parties that I'm doing with Big Tech on the Century of the Self. We can talk about that. That is the appropriate place for this conversation. It is not appropriate. Please, I'm just asking, because every time you guys get on this bend about that particular event, like, it distracts from everything else that's going on. I don't mind having the conversation about that, but we need to focus it in on an appropriate time and an appropriate place, and that is all I'm asking, okay? Thank you. I acknowledge your position. I want to accommodate it. Just not now.
Us to stay small, want us to stay quiet, and capitalism, let's not forget that one, want us to fall in line and want us to be less than who we are.
We talked about doing it again next week, so maybe the same. I haven't talked to him about it yet when we're going to do the next one, but he said next week, so. And I'm working very hard on getting Big Tech out of the shadow realm. But we aren't there yet. He's still in the shadow realm right now, but maybe he'll come out of the shadow realm next week.
And in a way, I think that if there is anything that I want people to take away is, as trans and non-binary people, sometimes we have to think about our gender more because of how we are perceived, which is exhausting. To be completely honest. But what would happen if everybody thought about their gender more? If everybody kind of really, or didn't need to think about it at all, actually, in an ideal world, because we could just exist and be. And if there was anything to do with gender, it would be more around curiosity. Oh, your experience is different than mine. I wonder how you're experiencing this, right? But people are so keen to put us in those tight boxes and to make their own meaning, right? And I'll talk about this more in the relationship panel, but even though gender and sexuality are separate, when I started, I was already out as queer, but then when I started coming out as trans, there were all these expectations where you're getting divorced. And I was like, why? I'm sexual. I don't this is not an issue, you know, but all these expectations that people have, right? Like, well, you know, are you going to be a man now, right? What does that even mean, right? And all those things, like which bathroom are you going to use? Which bathroom are you safe to use? Like, why do we even have to put all those boxes in our world, right? Well, I know why, but what would happen if we push back, not just in terms of our personal identity and expression, but if we truly push back against all this carceral logic that wants us to be less, that wants us to be small, that wants us to be disconnected from ourselves, from history, from ancestors, from community. I'll stop there because I'm going on, but that's where I'm at right now.
I think that's so beautiful. Thank you. It brought up something for me, and that is, and I don't know where I first heard this. I can't claim ownership or credit for this saying, but I do often say it, and that is that the great work of my childhood was to construct a version of myself that was.
Oh, look at this. Someone else was unsubscribed from my channel without actually doing. Guys, just as a reminder, I do have, like, I get people unsubscribed from this channel literally every single day. And I hear stuff like this all the time, where people who don't unsubscribe from my channel magically end up unsubscribed from my channel. This is why I stream at a very consistent time, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m., Saturdays at 6 p.m. for Socialism Saturday. This is why I encourage people to keep liking things, keep checking back, because YouTube will unsubscribe you if you don't do those things. The RCA YouTube released a video yesterday called How Marxists Are Formed. Well, that might be a good thing to watch for tomorrow's Socialism Saturday. I guess we'll see. Thank you, Naruto. Appreciate the super chat.
Pleasing to other people. And now that I'm settling into my authenticity, the great work of my adulthood is to unpick those parts which I find most authentic. It's funny, again, you know, I'm going to talk about my dating life a lot, I suppose, but I was on a date the other day, and this is a couple of months ago, and my hair was down to the middle of my back. I recently got it cut, and I was wearing a skirt and 6-inch heels, and I had a full face of makeup on, but I still had a mustache, no beard. Anyway, I'm walking into the bathroom, and the one was occupied, so I went into the one that was labeled men's, and a person behind me just down the hall was like, excuse me, and they said, you're going into the, and I turned around, and they see me with this mustache, and they were like, oh, I'm so sorry, and then just walked away.
See?
Like, it was
No
just too
penis.
much to stay there and
No
like, confront
penis.
the situation. But what that interaction reminded me is that, like, you know, this idea of that I was born as who I am, and then I've like taken these steps to choose my authenticity, and then that is like confusing to a world that is sort of trapped in this limited understanding of how we can express and present and be authentic. And I was just so grateful for that for me, and I wonder how that resonates with all of you. Like, what is the joy in being yourselves, and how has that manifested in your life as you have started to rest in your own authenticity?
I love that question, Jordan. And I think for me, the joy is in the not having to be smaller, but being able to be all of myself, right? And one of the things I was thinking about choice that's come back to my mind is that one of the gifts of spending so much time thinking about gender. You know, I did my PhD, well, it used to be called women's studies, which ages me a little bit. Now it would be called gender studies. You know, I'm in my 50s.
Oh.
But I get to.
So women's studies turned into gender studies. Imagine my shock.
Choose as much as I can within the confine of the world we live in, what I want to honor and what no longer serves me. And what I mean by that is, for example, you know, being brought up Italian in Italy, not in the US, you know, my idea of masculinity is different than people that have been brought up in the US. for example. And there are things that I love, like Italian men, like are fashionable. They're not afraid to wear pink. They're not afraid to carry like what, white Americans would call purses and that kind of thing. And I love that. And I want to honor that about my cultural heritage. At the same time, there is also some toxic masculinity in Italy and some problems and things that I don't want to take on, right? And so for me, there is a joy in being able to pick and choose what I want to honor of myself, my culture, my community, and what maybe no longer serves me or I don't think serves my culture and my community either. And I think that we could all have that choice if we wanted to, right? But we often feel like we have to be put into this box and kind of follow a certain script, right? And for me, there is sometimes it's scary too. I'm not going to lie. I've been confronted, I've been spat on, I've been, threatened, having hands put on me. And as a fellow CSA survivor, that's a lot. And I won't lie. And at the same time, I wouldn't give it up for the world. I like the fact that I get to be my expansive self in as many circumstances as is safe to do so. I wouldn't give it up for the world. Sometimes when I see kind of cis-normative folks struggle, it just makes me so sad. And there's like a grief that comes with, it doesn't have to be that way for anybody, regardless of our gender identity. I think there can be joy in knowing that we don't have to just follow the script that's given to us at birth in lots of different ways. And maybe it's because I'm a edge walker and I live in the liminal in a lot of different ways. But I think there is joy as well as pain sometimes, but mostly joy in this liminal edge walking path for me. And I like to say edge walking and liminal rather than non-binary. I think non-binary is the word that's going right now, but for me, it's really about being in the liminal in a lot of different ways, including gender.
Can you, I'm actually, Alex, curious about the word liminal. Usually I associate it with spirituality
Like liminal order, like
and
Jack
the
Murphy's
luminous.
thing.
And it seems like
Is Jack Murphy still doing anything? I know we've been talking about Jack Murphy a lot lately because he's been being brought up as a comparison to Nick Rekieta. Is Jack Murphy actually still doing anything? I truly have no idea.
I'm reading between the lines, all of you, spirituality has been a key part of this.
Liminal
and
order,
it's
like
almost
Jack Murphy.
Soul's liberation. It's a spiritual liberation. So can you speak a little bit about the intersection between spirituality and gender and sexuality?
Oh yeah, speak to the Gnostic sex
how those
cult.
things relate or don't relate for you.
Yeah, I'll be brief because I don't want to hog space. But for me, it is spiritual. There is there's been a lot of healing about belonging as well with my ancestors. That may be my immediate, now ancestors like my grandma and my great aunts didn't understand me, but but I know that their ancestors farther out in my lineage who are whole in terms of their gender and sexuality and who I do belong to.
Oh wow. Check this out. Jack Murphy doesn't even go as Jack Murphy anymore. Oh my God. Look at this. Hang on. I know this is a side note, but Jack Murphy now has on his Twitter profile, I didn't even know who this was when I saw the name. John Jack Murphy Goldman. Because he had to change his name from Jack Murphy. Oh God. Oh, that poor guy. Oh, he shaved the beard. Look at this. Shave the beard. Let's see. This Rebel Health Alliance thing. He does have a gold check on Twitter. He's running an insurance company? Oh, wow. He's running an insurance scam. Well, allegedly a scam. I don't know that it's a scam, but yeah, but it says a lot that he can't go by Jack Murphy anymore. If you don't know who this is, don't worry about it. And definitely don't Google it. I'll tell you that right now. Oh, wow. He is just completely just about this healthcare company now. Nothing to do with politics, completely rebranded, doing supplements apparently. Not even getting any real engagement. Oh, God. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. A cautionary tale, if I have ever seen one. Hang on. There we go.
And for me, when I talk about the liminal, it's about walking in between. So, sorry, my mouth is getting dry. Whether it's walking in between the masculine and feminine, whether it's walking in between, the pool of being assimilated into whiteness and keep honoring my identity, language, and culture,
Assimilated
whether it's
whiteness.
the liminal of being disabled, not always visibly so, but also the liminal in terms of being in this world and also connected to.
So I know this is a side note. Did you guys hear that? So apparently more of the police report got released on Nick Rekieta, and apparently, and I'm sorry if you guys aren't interested in this, but it's getting later in the stream, and sometimes we go on tangents later in the stream. Did you guys so apparently when the police went to Nick Rekieta's house, they drove by Nick Rekieta as he was driving away, and so someone went to go get him essentially, and when the police pulled him over, he basically told them to go fuck themselves. Also, Nick Rekieta, when the police showed up at his house, just kept yapping and yapping and yapping and yapping and yapping, and so apparently the police have already caught him and his wife contradicting each other. Oh, did they already? Well, I heard that that Kiwi Farms was raising money to get the body cam footage. They're also trying to get the judge to make sure the trial is live streamed. Bro. Crazy. Yeah. Nick Rekieta had one job, and that was to shut the hell up. And Nick Rekieta has still not shut up. There were some leaked text messages with all the lawyers groups that got released because Nick Rekieta was texting into them. I wonder if he's going to be streaming. Let me check his locals. Oh, he's got a chat up that says working on a new studio for revitalizing the show. He's planning on a new stream pretty soon, apparently. So we're just waiting for Nick Rekieta to fulfill his threats and actually stream something. If you don't know who Nick Rekieta is, don't worry about it. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry.
Spirit all the time, and I guess for want of a better word, in English, I would be a pagan, but one of the identities I love that comes from my area where I come from in southern Italy is Femminelli, which is a word that's hard to explain, but it's really, it's mostly used for people who are assigned male at birth and present more as feminine. But again, I guess the closest would be what Native folks here in the US call to spirit, would be the equivalent, Femminelli. And there is something about the connection, the constant connection to spirit, and that blend of what we call masculine and feminine is a connection to spirit. It's not just about a prefrontal cortex understanding and critique of gender from a queer perspective. It's really about a felt sense of connection to kinship and divinity and spirit. That's the best way I can put it into words in this moment. It's kind of hard to put into words, and maybe fellow panelists have their own experience with their connection with gender and spirit, but there's definitely something for me there that's about being a bridge. I remember when I was young and I was still a Catholic and I wanted to be a nun. I wanted to be a bridge that connected people to God's love, because that was the language I had, right, with wanting to be a nun. And now I recognize that was that calling of building bridges, being a bridge, and Edgewalker often are called to be that bridge for people, that connector for people. And we need, I think, those connectors more than ever. And I truly believe that a lot of people in our community, trans and queer people, often have that calling to be connectors. I don't think it's an accident. A lot of us are like poets and writers and scholars and performers, right? Like, how do we bring that connection, that empathy, that bridging in the world? I'll stop there.
Thank you, Alex. I'm going to piggyback off of that just really briefly. You know, back in 2002, I think it was, there was a Radical Queer People of Color conference over at Yale. And
wait, what?
I
In 2002, there was a Radical Queer People of Color conference at Yale. Can someone look that up? Radical Queer People of Color Conference, Yale University.
had
Bot.
proposed
Thank you.
not a panel, but a workshop around queerness and spirituality. And everybody's like, whoa, like, because at that time, queer people, we were being pushed from these churches, temples, mosques, like whatever, right? And I was just like, but I feel for some reason that a lot of us don't talk about because our religious backgrounds or our spiritual backgrounds, because we're shamed, because we've oftentimes seen those places as being so toxic and there's another word that's worse than toxic that is not coming, destructive to queer people. And so there was almost like coming out that people had to do in this conference, being a radical political queer people of color conference, because they were, well, let me just put it this way. That workshop was the highest attended workshop out of all of them. It was almost felt like this beautiful round table of like multi-denominational, multi-religions, like just all the different spiritualities, but people who had trained, were priests, were elders, were already like doing all of this important work in their spiritual communities.
Thank you.
And it is just a testament, that the number was just a testament to the fact that when you push queer people away from the table, you're doing a disservice to the larger humanity. And that we actually we're the people who do belong at the table, and we're the people that people need to be listening to, because our lenses are skewed to so much more, right? Skewed is not the word, but you know what I'm saying. I'm not finding my words today, but that's okay. And I feel like now with different queer activists and leaders in spiritual communities who are queer, I feel like, and maybe this is a coastal thing, but I have talked to people, like I have connections to people who are in the middle of the nation as well. And I feel like there's finally a place where people are like, cis and straight people are actually like, oh, I am getting my life given to me through the stories, through the way that the world is seen through queer people. Because we see what straight and cis people cannot see. Because we're that, I feel like, you know, I always talk about the story, but in so, like, as many of us know, so I'm not saying this, but I'm using this to emphasize that queer people were looked to get the messages, right? And so, you know, in this conversation around choice too, it's like I feel like I was both called into queerness on a very deeply spiritual level, and it was also my choice, right? But that's all I want to say.
I actually, well, this is such a good conversation. I relate to that, being called into this, because what's so funny is that a lot of people are shocked when I'm
getting kind of Gnostic, guys.
Like,
I don't know.
I do believe that we get to show up in every way that like feels authentic to us. So I honor my trans siblings who are sex workers. I honor those, you know, who are in touch with their sexuality and all these amazing things. And I get to exist outside of this hypersexualized trope of what it means to be trans, because personally, I'm bored. I don't like, it takes more, like, I get bored, like so bored. It's so primitive to me to be sitting and talking about, you know, like, oh, you know, like basically building my whole identity around what I like in bed and like that kind of, it's for me, it is spiritual. My transness is spiritual, it's divine, it is sacred. And I want to add, going back to the initial question about joy, like how does joy show up?
Just so we're very, very clear, just because they're talking about spirituality does not actually mean they're talking about Gnosticism. What they're saying is it's an innate part of who they are.
I'm in this space where I don't feel I have to outsource.
This is the right attitude.
Joy. I don't have to outsource. I don't have to seek it outside of myself. I'm learning how to tap into joy as an act of revolution. One of the things that profoundly changed in my life is when I
wait. Do you guys know how we've been like looking for information about what trans joy actually means? And we kind of decided it meant something to the effect of like you were being affirmed in everything that you were saying. What did this person just say? That tapping into joy was an act of revolution. This is from USC, the Blackout 2022 conference. Black in Action is a declaration of power, agency Black queer folks possess in society in the places we occupy. Okay, Bach, can you put a link somewhere for us, like maybe in the chat or in the chat that we have on Twitter? Hang on, let's listen again.
Joy. I don't have to outsource. I don't have to seek it outside of myself. I'm learning how to tap into joy as an act of revolution.
I'm learning how to tap into joy, queer joy, trans joy, as an act of revolution. Thank you, Bot. Thank you, Reagan. Hang on, gotta get Bot's link too.
One of the things that profoundly changed in my life is when I unsubscribed from martyrdom as a framework for liberation. The idea that I have to perform my pain as evidence of injustice, we're not doing that, keep it. And so one of the things, I recently wrote an op-ed for Harper's Bazaar called The Trans Woman's Guide to Thriving or something like that. And so the idea is when you think about what oppression is meant to do,
my dog is obviously very opinionated on this particular topic. She's expressing herself right now from the downstairs.
It's meant to shatter you from the inside out. It's meant to impede your capacity to dream, to imagine, to build, to heal, to innovate, to connect. All of those things that truly encapsulate what the human experience is all about. And so for me, I realized quickly that I asked myself a question one day that really broke my heart and inspired me at the same time.
Well, the reality is that my dog is very anti-communist when it comes to her food, but my dog is pro-communist when it comes to my food. And I feel like that's the same with most dogs. Dogs are communist fluid. They are pro-communist when it comes to other people's food. They are anti-communist when it comes to their own food.
I couldn't think of a single major movement leader who hadn't either been assassinated or died in poverty. And a lot of it is because there's this idea that long suffering is going to somehow, prove to people, right, that I'm in it and I'm committed and what I'm committed to is healing. And what I'm committed to, more importantly, is, we're seeing two different things right now. We're telling young people and youth to be themselves and to, take up space and to do all of this. But why in the hell would I do that if every time I log on to Instagram, I'm witnessing violence against Black bodies? Every time I log on to Instagram or TikTok, I'm hearing about trans violence and murders and things like that. And so personally for me, and then I'll wrap it up and then toss it over to Marshall. Personally, I at a young age realized that Black pain was a macronutrient that strengthens the ligaments of white supremacy. And the same can be said of trans pain and cis supremacy and the ways in which people like to consume that shit. Trauma porn is not allyship. I actually wrote an op-ed entitled that exactly for Marie Claire, for those who want to check it out.
Marie Claire.
Trauma porn, consuming trauma porn is not allyship. And so in that joy, I get to practice
Dogs are commiserating with each other across time and space.
Sovereignty. I get to understand and realize that liberation is not this far off destination, but liberation is in every second, minute, hour, day, week that I take back and reclaim for myself. You know, and I don't just understand.
This person is in a constant state of self-decolonization.
Understanding that trans and non-binary people don't owe anyone anything. Sometimes not even our own community in a certain sense, because there's this idea and expectation even sometimes that just because you're a public figure and you happen to be trans or non-binary, now that's my calling personally to show up in that way, but we shouldn't just automatically place that expectation. You know, I always say to people, expectations are resentments in embryo. When we hoist our expectations and, and like what people should do and what I should do is live in my most authentic sense of self. And if that happens to overlap with the liberation of others and the healing of others, which it typically does for those who are working through healing, then that's what it is. But I'll go ahead and pass it.
Thank you so much for that, Ashley. I think you sort of center right where I would center, which is for me that Black trans love, Black love is all centered in our healing, our healing of our.
We're about to start like Pride Month, aren't we? Shit, I forgot we were starting Pride Month. Oh God. Actually, well, that's good for us though. There's going to be a lot of crazy shit happening in June. I want everyone to be on the lookout in their local stores. If you see any Pride displays, if you see anything crazy on sale, take a picture of it. Make sure we know about it. Well, I don't know if we can do all queer streams, but I bet you keep an eye out for any. I'm going to go on Eventbrite and do some topics. Keep an eye out for any queer training. Oh, this guy's a jackass. He is not a libertarian. He is a fucking psychotic asshole. Grifter. Can I say grifter anymore? Because when I mean grifter, what I really mean is fucking grifter. Not good. Do not trust that guy. And he's definitely not a libertarian, man. Like, I'm involved in the actual, like, libertarian stuff. I'm not as involved as I was 2 years ago, but I'll tell you, that guy has never actually been involved in libertarian nothing. He is a conservative effing grifter.
So that we can be in better community and communion with one another. If we are able to heal ourselves, then we are going to be able to be in better community and relation with one another. When it comes to spirituality, I think there is a very big relationship between transness and spirituality. One, if I think like historically.
Can we please? Can we all coordinate at the same time to tag Deb in a tweet? That would be funny. Okay, we're focusing.
When I think about Native folks and Two-Spirit communities and how people were sort of seen and heralded as the like griots of the community, people who trans folks were the people who would have visions and sort of predict the future. We were the Octavia Butlers. We are the Octavia Butlers. And so I think there's something to transness that is similar or akin to what Du Bois would call double
See?
consciousness, or what
Now
Gloria
we're Dragon Balls.
Anzaldúa might call
Exactly.
mestiza consciousness, which is this idea of second sight, an understanding of a world other than your own, which in another sense is empathy. And I think that is about emotional intelligence. And I think that trans people tend to be, and I don't want to make assumptions, but there is something that makes trans people supple for an empathetic.
Does anyone know who invented the concept of emotional intelligence? Or maybe he didn't invent it, but he popularized it. Does anyone know the name of the person who popularized the concept of emotional intelligence, which this person is now saying is part of like queer empathy? Does anyone know his name? Wasn't Freud. No, not Freud. No, wasn't Jung either. And that's Jung. Wasn't Hitler. No, it wasn't Hitler. The person who popularized the concept of emotional intelligence was Daniel Goleman. Goleman, Jewish. Fucking God. Fucking damn it. I fucking hate that big tech is right about this shit. Fucking Jewish.
Disposition toward life because of the way we come here over and over again and have to sort of do things over and over again and differently.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say.
Someone go, Big Tech's live right now. Someone go over to Big Tech's Kick channel and send him a $2 Big Tech was right super chat. I think he's live right now. He was when I went live. Yeah, Big Tech is live right now. I'm sure he would appreciate if someone went over to his channel and sent him a Big Tech is right super chat. If you guys feel like it, say it was from me. Oh God, I hate that he's right. I hate it so much.
When it comes to spirituality is to talk specifically about Black queer elders who I've interviewed who came of age in the 80s and 90s in Los Angeles and who had to do everything to keep themselves alive. And that meant spiritually, that meant creating churches like Unity Fellowship Church, which was created by Archbishop Carl Bean, who people don't know, but identified as trans, and so is a transcestor to me. And so one thing Carl Bean talked about was what it meant to be a bridge person. And so what does it mean to hold that space between communities, between people, between places, right? It's a beautiful positioning. It's a beautiful thing, to be given that honor to hold space. And at the same time, what happens when you need to cross that bridge, right? How are we producing structures that so we don't have to lay our own bodies out as the sacrifice, a living sacrifice.
Transcestor, right? I heard it.
Yeah, so I'll stop there.
Transcestor.
Wow, it's so powerful to think about. I wonder too. What this brings up for me is that obviously I don't have a parallel experience holistically, but my transness, or my ness, as my good friend calls it, is such that it's confusing to others. And I spent so much of my life trying to convince and convert other people. And I'm curious to know, I mean, I literally was fighting, every day, a billion battles as one person, and it turned me into someone that I really didn't enjoy being. And I think part of that was trying to to carve out a space for myself. You know, I thought it was so beautiful what Andrea said this morning. You know, are we covering the world, or are we making shoes for ourselves in order that we, as we walk, it's comfortable for us? How are we doing it? And I certainly was trying to cover the world, change everyone and everything else in order that we might be able to show up more holistically, more authentically. And I think I'd be curious to know from all of you, what has been your experience now? Because I've really stopped trying to convince and convert people. It's a waste of my energy. It's a waste of my time. And it's never effective. What it does do to me is it makes me irritable. It steals my joy. It makes me start to exercise hatred. And none of those things I am interested in. But when I just show up to a space with a mutual desire to meet other people's needs, when I couch everything that I express in my own feelings and in my own needs, and I ask myself, what's going to bring me joy? What's going to bring me suffering? All of these questions are internal, they're intrinsic, they're about me. So my question, I think, to you all is, what's been the experience in this journey or this battle, this fight for you, and how do you sustain in a world that wants to strip us, to deny us, to erase us? Are you finding yourself trying to convince or convert, or have you, and of course there's places for that, I'm curious to know about those too, but holistically, have you moved more into a space that looks different than that as it relates to your identity?
I think I had a visceral reaction to that question, so I will start out. I talked about this recently in an interview with LATV, and I came to this realization some time ago. I am not trying to win everybody over. I am probably one of the few, because I hear people saying it's about acceptance, 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 acceptance. Honey, I am 38 years old, way past high school. I'm not going to win prom queen. I don't need people to accept me. I don't care what bathroom you think I should be.
I'm not sure. So you mean in terms of them just like, so it's honestly just about like, they think that someone who is like trying to go against their ideas, it's a framing question. They're saying you're literally trying to erase us. Well, no, we're not. We just don't agree with your ideas. But if they argue it as like you're literally trying to erase us, then it has a certain impact in terms of how they're framing the question. Does that make sense? That would be my answer for right this second anyway.
Using and which one you don't think I should be using. I don't care whether you think I'm a woman or not. I don't that's I've already done the work on the inside to be firm and secure in my understanding of self. So, you know, as the elderly folks would say, go play with one of your little friends. I'm not in that conversation. What I will say is I care about systems. What I care about is the individuals who don't think that I have a right to exist, holding keys to the storehouses that contain all of the resources that set us up to thrive.
So what she said right there is people who don't think I have a right to exist. They hold the power to everything I want. Well, it's not that those people don't think they have the right to exist. It's that they're not doing what they want them to do.
That is where my focus is. And so specifically for me, it's about equity. It's specifically I'm a legacy member within the Nexus Impact Society. I'm also a part of the Impact Guild. I'm constantly talking to venture capitalists and investors and all these different folks, you know, these wealthy families who have land and resources. Okay, so do you have a plan in your will for that? Give us the resources. We don't need handouts. That's not what we're asking for. We're not asking to be saved. We're asking for the resources so that we can save ourselves. And so I think that there has to be much you know, within the Black experience, we've had many frameworks for what it can look like when we support Black businesses, when we, go back since we weren't there to get the same benefits that folks got during the Homestead Act. in US history when families got like 260 acres of land to start out. We didn't get that. But when I think of reparations, whether it's, in the Black, POC, the trans, like, I think that there's a way that like we can be that and afford that to ourselves. I'm not waiting for people to come around, and yeah, so that's my answer. I think personally,
Blah, blah, blah.
money
blah,
talks,
blah.
bullshit walks. I'm at that phase of the program.
I got a big tech was right super chat from the comrades. Thank you. Yeah, it was because Daniel Goleman, who is like the guy that popularized emotional intelligence, which is what the queer Marxists are citing right now, Jewish. So emotional intelligence equals Jewish. I understand. Okay, whatever.
Where it's like, I really don't need you to accept me. I really don't need you to believe. What I need is for us to have socioeconomic power and influence, so that, and then understanding also that there's an alignment of values, because as we quickly saw, not to get too political, but in a previous presidency, we saw that there were people who looked like some of us. And whether it was Black or trans, and they looked like us, but they didn't have the same core beliefs. You know what I mean? And so it can't just be about identity, which is why for me, it's important to build a larger coalition. I believe cross-cultural solidarity is the only thing that'll yield dignity, safety, and access for all of us. So it's why it's important to be in spaces with cis folks and white folks, and, and not to say that they're saving us at all, or that but we have to think together, because one of the reasons why we see some of these more drastic laws taking place, and then like it's not just impacting trans folks, but like reproductive rights, which still affects trans folks, by the way, all of these different things.
Don't get too much of a big head, big tech.
It's because we're witnessing more white people betray white supremacy, and it is my favorite jam. It's my favorite show right now, is watching people unsubscribe and, and step away from it. And I literally feel that, yeah, if you're somebody who's listening, who has a little bit more privilege and a little bit more resource and a little bit more, the thing that I would say is the best way to be an ally, or an accomplice rather, is to put something on it. Invest in it. Invest in trans folks. Invest in Black, Brown, Indigenous, BIPOC. Invest in us. Because again, we're not asking people to save us, which is my last thing, I promise, and then I'm going to get off the mic. It's my issue with empowerment. The idea of empowerment, because empowerment implies that we inherently have no power, that we have to outsource.
This person is talking so much and yet saying nothing of value.
And the fact of the matter is, you're not trying to disrupt that dynamic or trying to shift it. You're still actively benefiting from it. So the real show of solidarity would be to, again, afford folks resources or remove barriers to access, even in the conversations of equity. Instead of thinking about how to give us something, how about removing the actual barriers to access, so that then we can be able to do what we need to.
Yeah, exactly, everyday therapist. So if you have access to money and power, you need to give it to us, because we are oppressed, and therefore you have to give us all your stuff, because if you don't give us all your stuff, that's not equitable and is therefore unfair.
And I yield.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Got about 6 or 7 more minutes.
I'll be brief, but I was really, I love what you said, Ashley Marie. It's like, sometimes when I do trainings, I'm happy to educate people if they're paying me to be completely honest, because it is labor. And I think for those of us, if you're trans and you're educating around gender issues, it's extra labor, because you are dealing often with an audience who doesn't have a lot of information. And part of my healing has also been to be able to recognize labor as labor when I'm doing it. really recognize that I have every right, as much as everybody else, to have my needs met and to feel supported, but also to take up space. One of the ways in which I'm taking up space, for example, is like, I've always volunteered a lot and I've always questioned, but usually like volunteering, like helping out, right? It hasn't been until more recently that I recognized I had so much experience that I wasn't bringing to the table. So for example, at the moment, I'm the president of the Minnesota Association of Marriage and Family Therapy. And as far as I know, I don't think there's been a out trans person who has been the board president of a family therapy association, which traditionally is one of the most conservative field.
Wait. This person is the president of a board of a statewide family therapy organization. I'm gonna bet. But do you know what we need to do? We need to revisit that project where we were finding queer therapists. And I know we only worked on it for like, half a day or something, but we already found like a lot. But we need to go revisit the queer, polyamorous, pansexual, BDSM, kink, leather, therapist project. Let's play it again. In Minnesota.
Experience that I wasn't bringing to the table. So for example, at the moment, I'm the president of the Minnesota Association of Marriage and Family.
And actually, shout out to Julianne, because she found Felix. She found another presentation from Felix. Felix, who was a presenter at the Transforming Gender Conference at the University of Colorado about the whole multiple personality disorder as a gender identity. Also, Human Centipede, that gender accelerationist lady, that the gender accelerationist thing is directly related to multiple personality disorder being a gender identity. It was the same language as that thing I went to in Colorado where I got possessed by a demon. Shut up, Joseph. No one needs to know that on the internet, Joseph.
Therapy. As far as I know, I don't think there's been a out trans person who has been the board president of a family therapy association, which traditionally is
No, I'm not joking at all. I'm not joking at all. They think that multiple personality disorder is a gender identity. I mean, they call it system gender. I'm not joking at all. I actually think Felix was self-diagnosed as autistic, and now that you mention it, yes. Yeah, excellent job. Excellent find. We were searching high and low for Felix, and we couldn't find anything on them. So really well done. There's an article about it on my Substack. I swear to God.
One of the most conservative field in mental health, and I was so doubting myself. And then when I looked up, I was like, hang on, there are all these people who are younger than me, who have less nonprofit experience than I do, less community organizing experience than I do, who are cis white men, and they're now thinking twice about putting themselves forward for leadership. So why am I thinking about it 5 times? It's time to stop thinking about it. It's time to just put myself out there and
listen. When I had to sit through that presentation in person. I was undercover when I saw this multiple personality thing. I sat through this entire presentation in person, in a disguise with a fake name, and I had to keep a straight face, and I asked questions, and I even had an after conversation with the person that presented this, and I was so fucked up by this that for 3 hours afterwards, I felt like I was possessed by a demon, and I had to have an exorcism in the middle of downtown Boulder, Colorado. I'm not joking when I say that. It was a serious thing. So this is like, this gender accelerationist bullshit that like Human Centipede sent me something on. I'm going to be reading for the podcast. Like, this is real. They also, I mean, I think I saw Human Centipede say that person thought they were a pigeon. This also has overlap with furries. It's like trans species. Reagan just put the link in the chat. It was, yo, I have never struggled through something so much in my life while keeping a straight face. Honest to God, it was like the hardest thing I've ever done in my life was to sit there and to take all that in and be like, and not be like, and listen, when you're undercover and like I was sitting right up close, they could have seen me. You can't make a funny face, you can't look shocked or anything like that. You'd have to just kind of like roll with it. I was legitimately fucked up from that for like several hours afterwards.
Members vote, but not be afraid to put myself out there, not being afraid to take up the space, and to serve in a different way, right? Because it's still service, but it's a service that recognizes where I'm at in my life and my experience, that put to service to the profession. And so, and when people, they're educating people, sometimes I'm still tempted on social media, and then I'm like, don't feed the trolls. If somebody's genuine, I will engage with them any day of the week, but I'm not going to give my energy to people who are never going to think otherwise. The last thing I'll say is I was doing a training for nurses a few years ago, and one person asked, what do you do with people who have been educated, who have been told the things, and they still don't do it? And I was like, well, I honestly tell them, I don't care about your personal belief. You have some ethical standards to live up to as an healthcare professional. And all I'm asking you to do is to live up to your professional standards and to your professional ethics. I don't want any more than that, and I don't want any less than that. You can believe whatever you want in your house, but if you're going to be a licensed healthcare professional and part of your ethics is to treat everybody with dignity and respect, it's not about acceptance, it's about not dehumanizing people, then I expect you not to dehumanize people. And if you use the wrong pronouns or you disrespect people because of the way they're gendered and racialized or both, you are not living up to your ethics, and that needs to be a problem. And it needs to be made a problem in the profession so that nobody feels free to show their bigotry when they made a promise to serve all communities and all people. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where I'm at with that at the moment.
Elo, Marshall, you want to take us out?
Yeah, I'll let D'Lo take us out, big brother. I'll let you take us out. So I'll just say, recently I was at the Black Trans Advocacy Conference, which is in its 10th year, always held in Dallas. And I was doing a workshop on exploring liberatory masculinity with the Brown Boy Project. And there was an incident of domestic violence where someone ended up getting sent to jail. And I was just talking to a friend, and I was like, and this person has a real history of violence through, at this point, at least 3 decades of people knowing this person to be this violent towards their partners. And so I was like, we're doing this liberatory masculinity platform, trying to give an offering of another way to be in a masculine identity, right? But what does it mean that the people who need to be there maybe aren't going to show up for something like this because they're just not there, they're not ready to hear that. So sometimes I said to my friend, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. And so I'll leave you with this, which is what my friend told me and gave me a whole different perspective, which is to say that, yeah, it's okay to preach to the choir, because the choir actually, once they leave you, they have their own congregation elsewhere that you have no idea about. So preaching to the choir is okay, because the choir also taps into its own networks and it keeps moving and growing in that way. So that's what I'll leave us with. And thank you all so much for being here.
With the 1 minute left, I am just going to say thank you to all the other speakers on this panel for just being amazing and brilliant people. And I just, because this is my last minute to say so, I think that what I have been battling as a trans person who's also an artist and who has made my life work be nothing else but creativity and giving creative ways of looking at the world to other queer and trans people. I want to say that oftentimes, and this goes for this whole panel, that you cannot quantify the impact of community-based artists and organizers. And so therefore, a lot of this work that you're seeing, these people who are working, including myself, don't get funded in the traditional ways. And when Ashley Marie wrote in the chat, we have to learn to budget our bandwidth because a lot of labor lands on our shoulders to keep our health, keep our communities healthy. I just want to reiterate that when we're talking about gender, when we're talking about sexuality, when we're talking about trans, non-binary, or just interpersonal relationships that we're having with other people who are gendered, right? Like everybody is, right? That that my request too is just like another stamp on what Ashley Marie was saying, is that we do need to, we want to identify who the areas, the places, the people who are willing to be brave enough to go, I don't need to give to Red Cross anymore. I'm not saying, I'm just saying, like, there are people, I mean, Red Cross has a lot of bad things associated with it, which you should look into. But what I'm saying is you can fund grassroots organizations and people where it doesn't need to be like you need a tax write. Like, we can find you the ways to get you the tax write-off, but we are doing work in communities to keep everybody healthy in this time of complete turmoil, right? So that's all I wanted to end off with.
Thank you. Jordan, you want to say something? I also want to say a few words at the end. Go ahead.
Please take it, Yossi.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to thank you all. I think
All right.
for me, you're shining examples.
That seems to be the end of it. We don't need to watch the last little set of remarks. Congratulations, guys. You made it through another queer, Marxist, non-binary, whatever the fuck presentation. I hope, especially for newer people, this was an enlightening way to kind of see the language and see how it shows up in the world. I know we went a little bit long today, but it was an hour and a half presentation, so you'll have to excuse me for that. As a reminder, tomorrow, which is Saturday, I go live at 6 p.m. So that's going to be 6 p.m. Eastern time for Socialism Saturday. And we are saying goodbye to Red May. We only watched one Red May presentation. Like, I feel like Red May let us down this year. We were all looking forward to it. There was all this economic stuff, and economic Marxism is fine, but we all get, like, it was not, Philip needs to do better. And we need to tell Philip and encourage Philip to be better. But we are getting into Pride Month of June, which should be very eventful. And I want to remind everyone, last chance to head over to the Unwoke art store. And this is going to be available until midnight tonight Eastern time. Though I think I'm going to extend it until tomorrow night at midnight, just to get Saturday in there, okay? Just because I launched a new product. I'm just thinking about this on the fly. I will extend the sale until tomorrow night, Saturday, or I guess Sunday at midnight. So you really have one more day, because I want to get the Socialism Saturday in there. Well, no, Human Centipede. Red May is actually usually really fucking awesome. But Philip let us down. But you can go back and look at the archives of Red May. Like, it's awesome. And they're all on their YouTube channel. There's so much stuff. We could actually go back and watch an archived Red May episode. Anyway, last chance, guys. 25% off your entire purchase in the Unwoke Art store. As long as you purchase $100 or more worth of merchandise, use the discount code REDMAY, REDMAY, in the Unwoke Art store, $100 or more worth of merch. And that includes the new, just launched, limited edition, 2 weeks only Trump American Gangster collection, including a brand new golden Trump mug. The last golden Trump mug is one of the most popular items I have ever sold in the store. The printing on this thing looks awesome. I mean, it's also perfect for Pride Month, if we're honest about it. Like, is there anything better that we could have for Pride Month other than a golden Trump mug? So you can get that for 25% off right now in the Unwoke Art Store as long as you buy a whole bunch of merch and you use the code REDMAY, REDMAY, in the checkout, and you'll be able to get some really cool swag. And I will be cleaning out the merch store. So this is your last chance on some of the other older items in the merch store. You know, I love all the designs, but I need to clean them out. I need to clean it up. There's too much stuff in the store. Okay. So head over there, get yourself some sweet swag, support the work I'm doing. I really do appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. All right, guys, that's it. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.